from you. They also have pieces of paper and pens in those, or pencils, in those bowls, so you can write your questions down. The questions go back to a committee who checks them to make sure that you're asking relevant questions. They can be really tough questions. I've got no problem with tough questions, but I really don't care what your uncle did at Madonna's 30 years ago. Okay? Not an appropriate question. That's a good point. Catherine's reminding me to turn off my cell phone, so I will remind all of you to please reach into your pockets, etc., and turn off your cell phones. I'll get mine out right now. My pardon for continuing to interrupt you. Thank you for your patience.
There you go. Thank you. I'm used to a podium, so I'm just going to go right over here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. It's been a long day, so I had to write down some of my thoughts so I wouldn't gaze off into the sunset. I stand before you today not just as a judicial candidate seeking your support for the Tri-County Superior Court, but as a woman who spent a lifetime becoming stronger and more confident in controlling one's life, learning and being grateful to the many women advocates who, in our great country, fought for the rights that we share today. And that is this group that brings this candidate forum to you. I was born to teenage parents raised by a maternal grandmother. She was born and raised in poverty outside of Louisville, Kentucky. She was born in 1915 when a woman did not have a right to vote, and passed away in 1984 down the hall from me before pay equity, workplace equity, or before the Violence Against Women's Act was created. All of which would have changed her life if it were available to her. She required and instilled in me to achieve, seek, learn, and advance. And that is the reason, that is a context of where I come from and the fabric of who I am as a judicial candidate. I believe in the power of reasonableness, the importance of impartiality, barring favoritism or discrimination, and working hard as a public servant. As an attorney and professional, I have had a broad array of experience in civil and criminal court matters when looking at my career as a whole. I'm also a trained mediator. With decades of experience as a practicing attorney in good standing in both Idaho and Washington, I have dedicated my career public service, matters of public interest, victim advocacy, and due process as a practicing attorney. I'm a problem solver and work to solve those problems in civil, criminal, and administrative courts. In addition to experience as an attorney, I have other life experiences or transferable skills applicable to a judicial officer in Superior Court. My website lists several things that I have done on a community basis, but we are limited to, I believe, 4 minutes. So I'm not going to go into that. Please see votemalpass.org. I have little cards for that. I have committed myself to education and training throughout my adult life. I also have trained others. By equipping ourselves with knowledge and skills, we are better to navigate the professional world in confidence, with competence, and lift a hand to lifting someone else up. I have an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree in government, master's degree in public administration, and I graduated from Gonzaga School of Law with honors. I was also a single mom with a toddler at the time. Later, I received 40 hours of mediation training through the University of Idaho School of Law. I consistently and regularly attend continuing legal education classes 4 times the amount necessary to retain licensing. I'm a presenter on legal topics, training committee chair for superior courts for court visitors, and my time is up. Thank you. guess that's important. My name is Lisa Malpass Childress, and I'm running for the Tri-County Superior Court Position 1, Ferry, Stevens, Ponderay. Thank you.
All right.
Good evening, folks. My name is Smitty Hagopian. I know it's a difficult last name, but there it is. I am really pleased to be here and very grateful that you've invited me here. I too am running for Superior Court Position 1 for the Tri-County Judicial District. Most of you probably know that Judge Monosmith is retiring at the end of this term after many years on the bench. Excuse me. But it occurs to me that this group of people, you're all going to vote. And so let me tell you why the BPW is important to me, so that through that, hopefully you can get to know who is this guy.
I'm okay here.
Oh, sorry. The three most important women in my life are my mother, she's passed now, my wife, and my daughter. And the reason that they are the three most important women in my life is because they're the three most courageous, outstanding, never say never, intelligent people, male or female, that I've ever met. They are the people that inspire me, whether they're alive or not, and they continue to do so. What I do now is work for the prosecuting attorney's office in Stevens County. I live in Northport. It's a lovely commute down Aladdin Road, if any of you know that area. I just showed one of your BPW members the bear that was in my front yard the other day. We live here because it's glorious. It's the last best hope for our paradise. And I moved here from another county in eastern Washington. Thank you. I moved here from Douglas and Chelan County. I did a lot of work in those counties, lived there for 29 years before I moved here. And the latter part of my private practice was shared somewhat as a pro tem judge in both Chelan and Grant County on a part-time basis. So I have some experience in that regard in Superior Court. Most of my experience as a lawyer, 33 years as a lawyer, has been, well, let me back up. Most of my experience has been very diverse. But the last almost 5 years, I've been a prosecutor. And when you're a prosecutor, you are only allowed to do one thing, and that is prosecute. You work for the state. If you still also want to do other work on a volunteer basis, you can, but you have to get permission of your boss to be elected. And so I was able to do that because I had cases. I had cases that needed to be finished. I had divorces that needed to be finalized because I did divorce work for decades. I had protection order issues that had to be dealt with. My experience in civil law is extensive. My experience in criminal law is similarly extensive. And most recently, it has been very focused in just criminal law. I'm the father of 3 biological kids. I told you about my daughter. She's a teacher down in Wenatchee. I have one foster child as well that is long ago an adult, but is doing well. I did dependency work for many years. I have broad and deep. Thank goodness, the 30-second sign is up. I would appreciate your vote. I think that experience matters, and I hope that it matters to you. And I know that when you go to the voting booth, or whatever it is that you do, and you color in that bubble, you will do so carefully. And I think experience, knowledge, willingness to step up and serve in a very difficult position shall carry the day. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nick Force, and I am the Ferry County District Court Judge. I was born in Washington State, and I grew up in Central Washington, in a small town called Shaston. I graduated from Eastern Washington University and went to law school in Thomas Jefferson. I started practicing law in Wenatchee, Washington, where I got to meet a lot of interesting attorneys like Mr. Gopian back in the day. And I've been with the Stevens County Prosecutor's Office for 13 years following that. I followed my father's footsteps, who was a prosecutor, and I was there for 13 years. In my time with the prosecutor's office and practicing law, I've done hundreds of trials. I've done district court trials, superior court, juvenile, civil commitment, and tax foreclosure trials. And so I have the experience of trial work under my belt. But also in the time I was with Stevens County, I helped the court to grow. In Stevens County, I met with Vance Peterson at Spokane County. He helped me to grow and start a veterans court in Stevens County. I also applied for grants and started a civil commitment court in Stevens County to serve the people who are suffering from mental illness. We also tried to start a drug court and superior court in Stevens County, but then the Blake decision came down and it kind of made things a little more difficult at that point when things were up in the air. So I worked in the prosecutor's office to start a diversion program to address these issues. But a couple years ago in Stevens County, I helped to actually start a drug court in Stevens County District Court. Now, in Ferry County, I've been involved up in Ferry County since 2012 doing conflict work for Mike Sandona, and I've also served to be a scorer for Ferry County Law Day with a moot court between Republic High School and Curlew. And that's been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And what I would like to do as Ferry County District Court Judge is I want to reinstate the drug court that was here. I think it's important. I think it helps a lot of people. And I think that it would be a good thing for the people who are suffering from substance abuse issues up here. In my time as Ferry County District Court Judge, I've already applied for grants to do this through the state. I also want to work with the schools to try to reinstate the Ferry County Law Day that they stopped doing in 2019. I think that's a good thing for kids to see how the court system works and get them more involved in the court system. A district court judge needs some qualities, and those qualities are to understand criminal law, because that's the majority of the cases that go through the district court. I have that experience. With 18 years experience as an attorney, 13 years experience as a prosecutor. Civil law, where I've done civil cases through district court, small claims, I help to process those. Protection orders, and also administrative issues. I helped on this. And as a judge, so far for Ferry County, I've helped to do all these things as well. So not only had experience as the attorney on one side of these issues, I've also had experience as a judge helping to process these issues. As a judge, you need to treat everyone who's in front of you with dignity and respect. Judge Nielsen has a quote I like to quote is, as a judge, you will see people on their worst day, and for you will be a Tuesday. And I think as a judge, you need to kind of sit down and remember that. My name is Nick Force, and I'm looking to be retained as the District Court Judge for Ferry County, and I'd appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sarah Cuellar. I'm also a member of the Hard Last Name Club. And I am also running to be Ferry County's District Court Judge. I have lived here in Ferry County since 2019. I chose this place to be my home for me and my 3 kids because I grew up in a small town and I wanted them to have the same upbringing that I did. A small town has a different set of values. The pace of life is different, and I think that you get to experience the joys of family and community a little bit easier when you're not commuting all day in traffic. So I love this place, and I want to see it be the best it can be, and that's why I'm running. I have a practice down on Main Street. I've been running my own law practice for 9 years. I've been on Main Street for I think 3 years now. And I've gotten to know a lot of you, and I've gotten to know how our court system works. And I've also, well, there's great things about Ferry County. We also have some challenges, and one of them is the resources that we have to run our judicial system, to to hire and keep law enforcement officers and to keep our kids protected from drugs and the crimes that come with it. In my time practicing in the court and then also being the first appearance as public defender, I saw some inefficiencies in the district court that I think that I can do better, that I can fix. One of them is right now, we are hiring out-of-town judges to come and cover the docket for our current judge because there's so many conflicts of interest. We're paying 2 people to do the same job. If I am elected, that problem will go away overnight. I think that I have the experience to be a district court judge. I've practiced in many courts. I've been in superior and district courts throughout the state. I've done federal district court, I've done bankruptcy court, and I've even done US tax court. So I've seen a lot of examples of what works and what doesn't work in a court system. I like to bring those good examples here for us to make our court system the best it can be. I was going to be short and sweet with this, but I want to address a comment from a voter that I got right before we started talking up here. I've been an attorney here in town, and so while I've represented a lot of views, I've also been on the other side. And I just want to make it clear that an attorney's job and a judge's job are different. An attorney's job is to zealously represent their client, to take their client's best interests at heart, to apply the law the best they can to get the result that their client wants. That's not a judge's job. A judge's job is to look at the facts and apply the law to the facts. And so that's what I will do as judge. I will be unbiased. I will disclose all of my conflicts on the record. If I think that it's a conflict that prevents me from making an unbiased decision, I'll definitely recuse myself. And I will comply with the judicial canons the best I can. In closing, I just want to say that this job for me will not be a stepping stone. This is my home. I already chose to live here. And I will not leave when the next best opportunity comes along. I will try to make sorry, it's nervous, you're all staring at me. I will try to make it the best I can. My family lives here, your family lives here, we all want the best for everybody, so let's vote in the person that has the right motivations and the most experience and can get the job done. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, and you 4 people are excused. You see what I did there? It was a judge thing. And those of you who are running for Congress, if you would please come up and take a chair, and we'll be putting out name tags for folks. Okay. I don't really care where you sit, my friends. You can sit wherever you all want to sit.
Questions that you would like to ask, just raise your hand. That would be you. That would not be you. That would be you. That's everybody. Yay!
All right, thank you very much. Good. Okay. All right. I'm just going to hand over the microphone. You have 2 minutes to address us, and each of you will get that opportunity, and then we'll roll into questions. For those of you who have questions, remember there are people walking around with bowls to collect those questions and pieces of paper on which you can write those questions. All right?
Thank you. So thank you, Republic, and thank you to the Republic Business Professional Women for inviting me to this forum. It's quite the honor. I'm Dr. Bernadine Bank, and I'm running for Congress. As an obstetrician gynecologist, I'm horrified by the life-threatening and dangerous lack of adequate health care for women since the Dobbs decision by the United States Supreme Court in June of 2022. Women's health is family health. Women's health is women's rights, and women's health is human rights. An exodus of providers in affected states has led to the shuttering of obstetric departments and expansion of the healthcare deserts plaguing America, especially in rural areas. Starting and running the Spokane VA Gynecology Department also gave me insight and authority on veterans care and veterans' rights. Our veterans deserve top-notch health care and access to that care. I plan to reestablish the satellite VA clinics in the district that closed down years ago, including here in Republic and also in Colville. And the Cerner electronic medical record is bad for veterans and their providers. It should not be used at the VA. What else matters to me? Making sure our fellow citizens in Airway Heights don't have PFAS in their drinking water. Collaborating with small businesses, farmers, Native American communities, rural areas, disadvantaged communities to address concerns, expanding access to all health care, including mental health care, and bringing some of the $1.3 trillion of infrastructure money into the area to increase rail and broadband and to improve roads and bridges. Like I do when seeing patients at the Chaz Clinic, I will listen. I'm also prepared to learn, whether it's visiting wheat farmers in Dayton, the VFW and American Legion in Chihuahua, or going to Ukraine, where over 30,000 people in Congressional District 5 have friends and family every day. I'm Dr. Bernadine Bank, and I'm asking for you to vote for me in the primary.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Bobby Bennett Walcott. I've met a few of you. I drove up this morning with my campaign, we left this morning from Pullman, Washington, long drive. You're going to get to know what my platform is when I tell you about myself. I was raised on an apple orchard in the Okanagan Valley, daughter of an orchardist, 3 older sisters. Learned work ethic at a very young age, as you can imagine, being a farmer's daughter. And so the concerns that we have in our rural communities related to agricultural families, farm families, food supply chain, those are really important to me. I've now lived in Pullman for 20 years, so now I'm in wheat country. Same issues, irrigation, safety for our farmers and their workers. How do we get the food from the farm to the table? The next thing is women's health. Like Dr. Banks, I have been a labor and delivery nurse for over 40 years. I've been a nurse midwife, certified nurse midwife since 2015, and my practice has always been in women's health, women's safety, access to reproductive care. I work with primarily university students at WSU, and they need a lot of guidance, those young women. And so this is where my expertise as a nurse midwife, I can come alongside and be a nurturing, supportive person for them and be an active listener, okay? The third part of mine is I'm a military wife. My husband is a combat veteran. He served in the Iraqi war. In 2003, the pin I wear, I made on 2004 July 4th in 2003, chokes me up a bit, when his forward surgical team was bombed. He called me at 2 in the morning saying, just know I'm okay. And I considered this a part of my art therapy, but a good friend of mine and we made these pins on the 4th of July. So veteran services, obviously, are very near and dear to my heart. May I thank them? Yes. I would like to thank all of you, even though I've run out of time. Again, Bobby Bennett Walcott, you can look for me on the primary ballot. Thank you so much.
I know 2 minutes isn't very long. You guys are doing great. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rick Valentine Flynn, and I'm running for Congress. I'm a veteran and a farmer, and as a moderate Republican running in this race, I'm not going to pander or try to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is this country's in trouble. The pull towards the far right has pushed many moderates and undecided voters into the hands of the Democrats, eating away the Republican numbers while bolstering theirs. Another uncomfortable truth is that no matter how you personally feel on abortion, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, coupled with the push for abortion bans, has succeeded in pushing a lot of women to vote Democrat. Pardon. Since that Supreme Court decision, Republicans have lost every single special election that's taken place. In one district, Democrats flipped one of our seats by 30 points. Voting for the candidate you agree with most is great, in theory, but sometimes it's more important to vote strategically. We don't want a one-party system. We need to nominate a moderate Republican candidate if we want any hope of winning back some of those alienated voters. There have been a large influx of people from Seattle and California moving to Spokane, and so this race is hardly a slam dunk. If we want to keep the seat Republican, we need to vote strategically. The current congressional term is slated to go down as the least productive in history due to our complete lack of bilateral cooperation. And while each side wants to get the best out of every situation, this childish bickering and one-upsmanship is simply tearing our country apart. We need to bring this country back to the middle, start cooperating again, and it's time to start reuniting the states of America. Thank you for having me here today, and God bless.
Under 2 minutes, brownie points.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Matthew Weldy. I am running for Washington's 5th Congressional District. I want to take a moment and say thank you to everybody who helped set up this event and invited us to be here to speak this evening. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, so thank you. Tell you a little bit about myself. I am running, obviously, for 5th Congressional District. My day job is I am a domestic violence prosecutor. I began that line of work in 2010. So 14 years going strong, trying to help victims and survivors of domestic violence make it out of those relationships and make the transition into safe and stable situations while holding the abusers accountable. I'm pretty good at it. During my career, I've developed a skill set which will help me in Congress, which I'm trying to earn your votes to take with me. That skill set is the ability to work with the other side to get things done. I go to court every day. I work with defense attorneys who are on the other side from me. Their priorities are the opposite of mine. Their goals are the opposite of mine. Their viewpoints are different than mine. Their priorities are different than mine. I'm prosecuting their client. In many serious cases, I'm trying to send their client to prison. Their rights are at stake. Their freedom is at stake. Yet despite this situation, I can work with them. We have civil communication. We find things we can agree on as a starting point to resolve tough issues and resolve serious cases. I know how to do that. I've been doing it for 14 years. It's a skill set that's needed in Congress, where you have an adversarial system that's much like our court system, where you have two sides. We need someone who can go up to Washington, D.C., work across the aisle, find people that have, where you can find some common ground to build from. We need to reject the politics of pessimism, the politics of grievance, embrace the politics of optimism, the politics of the possible, so we can find common ground, build solutions from there, and get things done. So I'm asking for your vote in the primary. Again, my name is Matthew Weldy, and I get things done. So please get on board, vote Weldy, so I can get to work. Thank you.
I'm Jacqueline Maycomber. I grew up here. I think I know many of you. And I want to take this time to tell you that 7 years ago, when I stood before you, actually in this exact place, I made a promise to put you above politics, to fight for you, and to make sure I got something done. In my time in the legislature, the Hearst decision came down that would have stopped building in Ferry County and much of eastern Washington. I fought to hold the capital budget $46 billion, because if we couldn't build, Seattle wouldn't build. And in 18 months, we overturned that. I made sure that the Veteran Service Officer Program, I had to fight Republicans and Democrats to get that bill in Washington State, and I was told it's not our problem, it's a federal problem. We got over $1 million in Stevens, Ferry, and Pend Oreille County in less than a year. And now Whitman County has over $1 million, and that bill is now in Congress to go nationwide because it is our problem. I also passed the $100 insulin bill before the federal government because I found out that people were mortgaging their houses and not being able to drive their cars to keep their children alive. I also passed the apprenticeship and high school bill to make sure kids graduated with some kind of hope. I saw many schools on the west side had opportunities that were endless. And here, and many in eastern Washington weren't even getting funded to make sure they graduated with some kind of skill. I made promises to you 7 years ago that I would serve you the way you served me while I was growing up. And I tell you, I thank you every day because I'm the person I am today because most of the people in this room. You helped me get there, and you helped my children grow too. You know. Most of the women here today, by the way, there's more men named John in Congress than Republican women, but we'll let that go. I appreciate every single one of you. When I made promises to serve you, I kept those promises. I'm Jacqueline Maycumber, and I ask for your vote.
Have to use the podium because I've got stuff to put on here. I'm Renee Holiday. I'm running for Congress, Congressional District 5, and there we go, that did it. Okay, so, sorry about that. I've been at this for 18 solid years. I got drug into this because I'm a livestock owner, I'm a farmer, and what came to me on my doorstep was UN programs. UN Agenda 21 programs telling me what I could and couldn't do on my own property. And so I've been fighting it since 2006. First of all, God is first in this nation. That's how we restore the nation. We get the nation all back under God. That's the first step. If you're going to fight Agenda 21, you have to know who the enemy is. I wrote the first book in the nation on Agenda 21. I wrote the second book in the nation on how to fix the communist coup takeover that we're currently experiencing in America. And if you don't know that the communists are now taking over everything, you need to know that they're using Sun Tzu strategies, and I've learned Sun Tzu strategies, which is how I've been able to fight them and win. 18 years of fighting experience where I stand up for the little guy because I don't want people taking my property rights. I don't want people taking my water. And so I went to bat for everyone else, and I started the Stevens County Property Rights Group, and I led it for 5 years effectively. I pushed back Agenda 21 programs over and over, and I win. I win. This is an international situation, and it's taking it to Congress. And it goes global to local. I'm completely familiar with all of it. I know how to fight them. I know how to win. I'm Renee Holiday, and I ask for your vote.
Well, first of all, thank you to the BPW and to you ladies and gentlemen for being here. My name is Brian Danzel. I also know virtually everybody in the room. I'm your county commissioner. Previously, I was your state senator, where my real landmark piece of legislation that I got through and is really affecting Ferry County today in a positive way is that we were able to get Ferry County out of fully planning under the Growth Management Act in my first session. And from there, I was appointed in the Trump administration as an advisor at the National Economic Council and finally at the United States Department of Agriculture, where I worked on everything from lining up our forest plans for the most timber production since 1993, or advocating for our wheat farmers and our tree fruit growers in Washington State, whether it was trade deals or trying to be able to tap into markets, usually in Asia for our soft white wheat farmers in the eastern part of the state. I say all that because I think that what I'd like to do is say that I don't think I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I might be a little different in that way, but I think you are. I think the people of Eastern Washington are. I think our kids are. And I want to take that experience that I've got working all the way up from the federal government, local government, and at the state government, and I want to have absolute victories for the next generation so that they can have the same opportunity like I had growing up in Ferry County, Washington in the 1980s and 90s. And so the question that I have for you is, if you've sat back and watched forever and ever in absolute bewilderment and wondered what happened to the government of, for, and by the people, if you've sat back and you watched television and saw the politicians from the same exact political party regurgitate the exact same talking points, pre-written speeches, and you thought to yourself, when in the heck are we going to elect one of us rather than one of them? And I don't mean Republican versus Democrat, I mean somebody that's in touch with real people. If you're looking for that, if you're looking for serious leadership, my name is Brian Danzel and I'm looking for your vote. Thank you very much.
Dr. Banks, I'm going to hand you the microphone. You're all going to answer your questions from right here. You're going to get a minute and a half to answer, each of you. Some of the questions are for most of you, a couple of them are for individuals. We'll just go through all of them, and then when you're through, just pass the microphone on. If you would prefer to stand, that's fine, but from here.
And we'll rotate. All right. Oh, and if there are more questions, we're taking more questions, so please help yourselves. There are bowls and stuff around.
All right. I'm going to have to speak loudly because this microphone doesn't work really well. And if any of you need me to ask the question again, please, I'm going to start with a question for all of the candidates. Please ask, not a problem. So this is for the Republican congressional candidates. Okay. Do you believe a convicted felon should represent your party as the candidate for president? Please explain.
The Republican Party has long been the party of law and order, and it is shameful for us to be backing a convicted criminal. And that's all I have to say on it.
Pass along.
Right now, I think that it's sad that we're in a position right now that both sides don't trust our candidates for our president. That we're having this conversation on the back and forth, whether it's Hunter Biden, Biden, Trump, that we've lost faith, or that the judicial system is more concerning on how we move forward. We have to move forward in faith and return back to our roots and be proud of our nation and those leaders. And frankly, I have concerns as we move forward that we make sure that we solidify our judicial system, that there is nothing that hampers that. We continue that faith in that system, unwavering, and that we hold our elected officials to the highest standard. That is the most important thing in this nation. And by the way, when Iran is sending drones to Israel, they don't look to Canada, they look to America. So we need to continue to uphold ourselves to those highest standards.
Well, first of all, I'm a MAGA Republican, so Trump all the way. That is, this convicted felon garbage is absolute bunk. There's nothing right that has happened under this persecution. They've convicted him of what crime? What crime? The attorneys can't even answer what crime was he guilty of, right? This is a setup. These are sham, scam trials with absolute no legality to them whatsoever. Like I said, the communist coup, who's the people that are attacking him? It's the people that are the communists in government. This takeover of the judicial system by Soros-backed prosecutors, DAs, it's epidemic over the whole nation right now. And so absolutely, Trump all the way.
Okay,
Yeah, so I would say that, yeah, I support Donald Trump. I don't believe that his conviction is going to be upheld on appeal, number one. Number two, I think that the Department of Justice has become politicized in this country to a level that's unhealthy. There was also stories previously that the IRS targeted conservatives, so I mean, we can go on and on about that. The thing that I would say is that what we have at play here in America, in my opinion, is we've got folks that believe either, like, we want America first policies and to worry about America first. And by the way, back in the 1980s, 90s, into the 2000s, that wouldn't have been considered racist to say the words America first. Everybody kind of thought that. But for whatever reason now, that's considered racist to say we want to take care of people in our own country first. Versus folks that have wanton disregard for borders, that want to kind of become involved in more of the global currency, that where trade becomes more important than the individual's rights and freedoms and liberties of living in this country. And so I'm far more worried about that, combined with someone that can't walk from the airplane to the podium and who I think ought to be in a retirement home being in the Oval Office.
Why don't you hold on to the microphone?
I'll let you start. I'll be the first person to answer this question. The question is, and it's for all the candidates, what is your stance on the Snake River dams?
Well, my stance on the Snake River dams is that we absolutely must do everything that we can to protect them and to not let them be taken out, which is what the folks that are on the extreme left want to have done. It's important for a multitude of reasons. It's important for hydroelectric power, redundant hydroelectric power. It's important for irrigating when it comes to our farmers down on the Columbia Basin. And as a historical context, the person that wanted to make all those things happen was the Democrat himself, Franklin Roosevelt, who was the one that promised the Columbia River Basin project. So I think that we're due that promise. I think that we ought to have hydroelectric. And I'll go a step further. This is at the same time when the Democrat Party is calling for electric vehicle mandates. So they want to rip out the dams and they want to rely on wind farms and solar to be able to offset what we're going to lose in hydroelectric, and then also have an electric vehicle mandate. And if you talk to anybody at one of the utility districts or a Vista, they will simply tell you that it is impossible to be able to provide that much power and carry that much of a load. And so that's what I think this is a load.
Dams are essential, especially to farmers, to the water table. We cannot continue to tear down dams. We've already watched a huge problem with that happening all throughout California, Oregon, and Washington. We cannot afford to lose one more single dam. In fact, that $1.3 trillion infrastructure bill should be using a whole bunch of that money to reinforce the dams that we have and improve them. And so I am absolutely all about making sure those dams stay in place.
I think we need to ask everybody to name all the dams, and then I would feel better. I've been living this for years, and the most fruitful land in America, which is the 5th Congressional District, that uses the dams, are going to need them. So if you take out baseload and then you take out fish, Inslee's own report on page 124 to 127 talks about the fish and talks about the removal of the dam and the wash of the sediments alone would not increase more than 2%. Removing the predators at the mouth would actually increase it better. And there are ways that we can move fish up without removal of the dam. Now, alone, the transportation of the barges are not feasible by trucking. And so we have no way to move that road out because it's a cliff and then water. So there's no way to move the transportation of our wheat, which, by the way, right now we're looking at $4 and less a bushel, and we are losing on the export market right now nationally. And our wheat farmers have been in trouble. So understanding that we need to make sure that we keep for our baseload energy, which is one of the most important things as we move forward, just alone in manufacturing has to happen. If we're going to continue to have living wage jobs, we have to continue that baseload, and then making sure that the fish, alone removing the predators at the mouth, would do better. By the way, I'll shoot a seal for you, or a sea lion. Anyway, that will do better than removing the dams. And so understanding that sediment wash will not bring the salmon back. And it actually, we've learned up north that it actually has been detrimental removal of the dams to the salmon.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with the people who've spoken so far. Our campaign is opposed to removing or breaching the dams. Ms. Maycomber is correct. I would not be able to cite you the names of all the dams. But what I can tell you is that I went down to speak to some advocacy groups and trade groups that represent our growers and asked about the Snake River dams. And what I learned from them, including USA Pulses and other groups, is that our wheat is bulk shipped down the rivers on barges and then to the harbor at Portland. If those dams are breached and we can no longer use those bulk barges, all of that wheat will have to be shipped to Tacoma or Seattle on trucks. That is a terrible idea. That outweighs any other concerns there might be that would weigh in favor of removing the dams. But then you also talk about the importance of the electricity produced on top of the importance it is to our growers. For those reasons combined, it is important that those dams remain as they are, and so our campaign is opposed to any efforts to remove or breach those dams. Thank you.
Well, while getting my degree in environmental science, I studied this subject quite a bit, and the restoration of the salmon, while important, can be accomplished by other means other than breaching the dams. There are the salmon ladders that have been improved upon, and there are even these things called salmon cannons that launch them up through a pneumatic tube. So there are other options, and here in the western part of the country, we are facing a lot of drought issues. So keeping the dams, keeping the reservoirs is important to our agriculture and all other types of the environmental issues here as well. So I'm all for keeping the dams. Thank you.
Do you mind if I stand? Again, growing up in Apple country and now living in wheat country, I would not be able to support breaching the dams as well. 40% of our crops, this is according to the Army Corps of Engineers, 40% of the world's wheat is transported over that Snake River system. And so I will add to Matthew's statement, that's a huge amount, and the detriment that would do to Palouse farmers if they were to have that unavailable to them would be overwhelming. The other thing is the dams also provide a dike, if you will, to support the Lewiston-Clarkson Valley. You take away the dams, you take away the support system, and then you're increasing the risk of flood down in the Lewiston-Clarkson Valley. Unacceptable. Irrigation from Republic to Walla Walla. We're all dependent on the Columbia River project. And so I think that we're all in agreement here, and I can't understand why everyone thinks all Democrats want to breach the dams. We don't. I'm very supportive of keeping the dams intact in support of our farmers and our farming communities. There's other clean energy available, but until there would be a really good strategic plan in place, I think it would be really unacceptable and harmful to families if we were to breach the dams. Thank you.
Thank you. I went on a tour of the Lower Granite Dam 2 weeks ago and learned, I already had studied this, but I learned a lot more just by going on that tour. I can name 2 of the dams, Upper and Lower Granite. And I realized that the barge, each barge carries 400 truckloads of wheat. And they put 4 barges together. So when you think about 1,600 trucks on these little farm roads trying to get that wheat to market, it becomes untenable. So clearly that is the biggest reason that the dams were built was not for the hydropower, it was for the transportation. That was the whole goal of those dams. And the fish ladders, this is another thing that I was fascinated by, 97% of the fish get through each dam. So after 4 dams, there is a little bit of degradation, 88 to 90% get through. But there's all kinds of new technology coming forward to even improve on that. We've got 10 years. So there was that $1 billion lawsuit that happened in December for the Native American tribes through the United States government, and the agreement is that they cannot sue for another 10 years. So in a way, at this point, it's somewhat irrelevant, but I would also not breach the dams. We would rely on them too much economically.
Thanks. Did you hand that to Bobby? And Bobby, this question is just
better read with the mic on. It's much better read with the mic on. This question is just for you.
oh.
How do you advise young women in terms of reproductive health?
Oh, that is such a great question. And it's a pretty complex question. I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't give a good enough answer, please email me, okay? So I think with reproductive health and being a certified nurse, midwife, and a women's healthcare provider, one of the things is that the key point is give the women education, inform them. Forgive me if I'm being coarse, but young people are sexually active. And I would rather have a young woman be informed on what her contraceptive options are to prevent pregnancy, decrease the risk of abortion, right? Prevent pregnancy, and also decrease the risk of sexually transmitted infection. And so my role in the land is to provide counseling and options to these young women so that they can protect themselves and their partners, And then they can make informed choices that are in their best interests. Does that answer the question, or does anyone else? Okay, I'm not supposed to ask, I'm sorry. But that's how I would handle that situation. Provide the education, the information, the options, and then in a way you step back and you let the individual make that decision for themselves.
All right, if you pass that to Rick.
This is a question for all of you. And by the way, don't feel compelled to take all minute and a half. If your answer is shorter than that, God love you. Do you feel that the January 6th insurrectionists should be pardoned, yes or no?
No.
No.
You know, it's so funny. We are not even convicting rapists right now and some murderers. In the state of Washington, when we did the public safety reform, we let out some of the heinous criminals at this time. We actually had a policy to allow murderers and pedophiles to vote, and it almost passed. It got out of committee. That bill would have had some of our most dangerous people, while serving time in prison, be able to be school board members or legislators by just getting their wards to vote in prison. At this point, I think we need to rise as a nation and move on and pardon those individuals, and while also making sure that we're convicting criminals that are committing crimes in our nation and not letting them go, including rape and murder. That's happening today. We just lost another officer because another gentleman walked away and killed an officer.
I'm totally with Trump, how he stands on this situation. He calls them the hostages, the J6 hostages, and I fully agree with that. I am big time for constitutional law and adhering to the law, as well as the oath of office that says that we are to uphold the law of the Constitution, not just how you feel about somebody doing something or whether you like them or not, and keeping them in prison without even charging them, some of them for more than a year and a half. They still haven't even been charged. That is akin to being held hostage. That is absolutely unconstitutional in every way, shape, and form. And everybody that is responsible for holding those people against their will, without charge, without their right to a speedy trial, is actually breaking the law themselves. I fully agree they should be pardoned, as well as restitution given to every last single one of those people that have been treated absolutely unconstitutionally.
I don't think that it was an insurrection. I think if the President of the United States wanted to have an insurrection, he would have had Apache helicopters and tanks and drones. And so I disagree with the premise that it was an insurrection. I think a lot of the supporters that were worked up about the clarity on voting were protesting. A lot of the video evidence that you see, they were literally let in the door. I would say that I think that there's a double standard in this country. We've fielded questions now about Donald Trump being a convict and about January 6th. I guess I would ask, are we going to get some Hunter Biden questions? Are we going to get some questions going the other direction about what's happened with the riots that took place throughout the United States the previous 5 years, where they burned cities down and nobody ever got prosecuted to begin with? Is that as much of a concern as the other? And it seems like we're not going to maybe get those questions, but I would say that all the worries that are coming from that direction about Republicans, I have much, much, much more worries going the other way with the liberals wanting to control everything in this country, and I believe weaponizing the agencies that do so.
No.
Sure. Maybe. Do you feel that the January 6th insurrectionists should be pardoned?
No. By the way, brownie points for those of you who answered yes or no as requested. Okay. Let's try a different one. Where are your contributions coming from? And Matthew, I think you're starting this.
Contributions.
Thank you. My contributions all come from individual donors. Thank you.
Most of my contributions have come from in-district, which I'm very honored. I also just got endorsed by Washington State Farm Bureau. I'm pretty honored about that. Also, Gun Owners of America nationally have endorsed me. Maggie's List, the View PAC, which is the #1 PAC for electing women congresswomen. See, I don't even know the correct gender terms that's used so much. So, also, I've been endorsed by a lot of local groups, and including firefighters and law enforcement groups, including Washington WACOPS, many sheriffs and local groups and the locals for the fire districts too. So I'm honored to get a lot of those endorsements and those PACs, including legislators and small town mayors and Spokane County elected officials.
All of my donors so far have been individual people with a budget.
Yeah, thank you. Mine has come from the hardworking people and the ranchers and farmers and miners and loggers and small business owners. And I think this will be the greatest difference, because although it's easy to say that you've gotten support from the groups, I would recommend anybody go take a look at all of my opponents and see where their money comes from. Mine actually does come from regular working people. And I'll tell you something. One of the things that you learn when you're not appointed to a position, but you had to earn your first job by winning an election, is that you have to go out and meet real people. And you remember those people and you take it with you, because those are the people that put you in office. Similarly, when you're appointed to office, you remember those people, and they're typically politicians. And so those are usually the folks that you hang around with and get the endorsements from. I'm proud that I got the endorsements from the grassroots people of the Washington State Republican Party on a 4-to-1 basis. 4-to-1 we got the Washington State Republican Party endorsement. And that's the work of going around and actually meeting with real people and not spending time in fundraisers with other politicians. That's how I would be different in my approach too. I wouldn't have people on my team that were politicians before. I would bring people that have really done well in private life and bring them into the fold that are grounded in these communities, so that they could be in closer touch with the real working problems of real working families.
This is where I get my steps in tonight.
Thank you. Yes, all of my donors are individual donors, but it's important to know that I have donors from all 50 states. The reason I have donors from all 50 states is because my message is resonating. Women's health is resonating across this country. We're seeing all the collateral damage and consequences of some of the draconian laws that have been put in place and the restrictions on reproductive freedom. And again, this is a national issue. And yes, I have quite a few donors here within the district, but I'm proud to say I also have donors throughout the entire country.
So, I believe in complete transparency. I didn't join the race until May 10th. My contributions thus far are 0. I am supporting myself in the primary. I'm using my own income as a faculty member. I did receive my very first contribution from my husband. And we haven't deposited yet because we haven't had it for 7 days. But just being real, I'm here because not I want to rub elbows, or I'm here because I want to listen. I want to listen. If you felt like contributing, that would be so lovely. My hands are pretty pricey, okay? If you don't, I'm still more than willing to listen to you, because you're the ones that your representative represents. And if I had to pay for the campaign out of my own pocket 100%, it would well be worth it if I could hear your voice and hear what's important to you. Thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Well, so far I've only gotten a few donations from local farmers. I'm hoping to branch out and get more, but I had no real interest in any corporate, money or, any of that. So I'm looking for your support, not corporate support. Thank you.
So you answered that, Matthew, right?
Yes, I did.
Great. Pass that to Jacqueline.
The next question is also for all congressional candidates. What is your position regarding a federal ban on abortion?
Oh my gosh. So I just want to let you know, I just went to DC and met with Susan B. Anthony. And so I have a 100% Human Life Washington vote record. And they asked me, would I be comfortable voting for a 16 to 18 week national ban instead of leaving it up to the states? As we know, it's an easy answer to say, oh, wah, wah, wah. Yeah. That did not like my answer. I'll just say.
Sorry about that.
Is that okay, well, listen.
Hello?
If we leave it up to the states, we have what's happening across the nation, and it's an easy answer to say, leave it up to the states, leave it up to the states. But what's best for the nation today and what's best for tomorrow? And so to have the leading Human Life of Washington, the leading most conservative group, ask if we can come to a place where we can all agree nationally for women, I felt a little bit of hope for the future. And to make sure that we continue to protect women and protect the unborn, that there will be an answer and a solution nationally. And I really look forward to working with congressional members on that policy. For them to do that, I think we can move forward and not have the patchwork issues that we're having due to the last policy. You might have to stand. It's not coming any closer to you. That has been, okay, so my turn. Just yell.
So that has been the question that people keep asking me as well is, would you support a federal ban as opposed to leaving it up to the states? And I would have to say yes, simply because if we leave it up to the states, we're running across the issue of people just going across the border into the next state to get abortions and then just going back home. And so that creates a tremendous a problem, whereas if this was all just a federal blanket statement, we could eliminate that issue altogether.
It works. Magic. Thank you, sorry about that.
Okay, yeah, I believe that one of the biggest issues when it comes to this, first of all, I'm pro-life. I believe in abortion in the case of rape, incest, and the health and safety of the mother. I believe that the Supreme Court did get it right. From the beginning of our country until the 1960s, when the Warren Court was in power, there was no such thing as a constitutional right to abortion. It was supposed to be left to the states. And even probably one of the most prominent liberal justices in the history of the High Court, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, thought that Roe versus Wade was going to eventually be overturned because it was on shaky legal ground. So I don't think that it's anything that was unexpected, even from folks that might not have agreed with the end result. I guess I would say this, here's my opinion. I would hope that we live in a world where the goal would be not to have abortions. I know that that's probably not going to be realistic for everybody, that it's just not, but I would hope that we have that goal as people, not to kill babies. The second part of it I would say is I think that one of the issues is the other side, us, the Republicans, have never offered anything else. I would like to expedite adoptions. One of the saddest things I saw when I was in the state senate was folks that couldn't have kids that really wanted to adopt and couldn't. So are we doing the best we can? Are we turning over every stone to make that the most efficient and effective possible thing that we could, to make parents people that can't have children to be able to have those kids? And the folks that are put in that horrible position of having to consider whether to give up a baby or not might have an option that would work better. I think we should look into it where we can all agree.
I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. I trained at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas. That is the largest obstetric service in the country. I myself chose not to participate in any elective abortions. That was my choice. But these choices should not be left to judges, lawyers, and politicians. This is a very personal choice between a woman, her provider, and God. End of statement. I think we definitely do not want a ban on abortion across this country. In fact, I'm for just the opposite and enshrining reproductive freedom into our Constitution once and for all. Because anything short of a constitutional amendment is just putting a Band-Aid on arterial bleeding, and we are not going to move forward in this country until we allow women that freedom.
I think everyone up here would agree that abortion is such a horrible, tragic state for a person to be in, if they even have to consider it. I'm going to share, though, again, as a nurse midwife, counseling people, I would have to say I couldn't support a national ban, and let me clarify why. As a nurse midwife, a lot of times, any of you who've had a baby, you look forward to that anatomy ultrasound, don't you? You're going to find out the sex of your baby. Well, the anatomy ultrasound is way more than are you having a boy or a girl. And so I've had clients that have had, at their 20-week ultrasound, or maybe 22 weeks, already into their second trimester, they've been found to be carrying a baby that has an anomaly or a disorder, a chromosomal disorder, that is incompatible with life. And having to guide that woman, refer her from Pullman up to Spokane to the specialty clinics, and then having to talk back with that family about these are your options. Okay, your baby doesn't have a brain. Your baby doesn't have a full skull. Your baby will not survive outside the uterus. Your options, you can choose to carry that pregnancy. If that is your choice, then that choice will be respected. That being said, also offering that woman how painful it would be knowing I'm going to carry a baby who's going to die, either in or immediately once I give birth, giving her the option. Okay, thank you for your time. I appreciate that.
Well, as I said earlier, I think that the overturning of Roe versus Wade has turned a lot of voters off from the Republican Party. It has alienated a lot of the moderates, and I think that pushing for a national ban will only further alienate voters and push us towards a one-party system where the Republican Party is a minority party with no real power. Thank you.
Thank you. I would not support a national ban on abortion and that sort of restriction on women's reproductive rights. Look, as a domestic violence prosecutor, I fight for women in the courtroom every day to try and get them out of abusive relationships. An extension of my fight for women's rights in that arena is my fight that I intend to carry on for their rights to reproductive freedom and choice. So prior to the Dobbs decision, Roe versus Wade essentially established a national policy and it drew a distinction at viability, which I think makes sense. So when you're talking about when a woman is pregnant prior to viability, our policy is pretty straightforward. It's her uterus, it's her rules, end of story. More restrictive policies that we've seen come out in various states since the Dobbs decision have created tragic situations. Our campaign doesn't not necessarily think it's a great policy to empower rapists to decide with whom they want to procreate. We don't think it's necessarily a good policy to force 12-year-olds to have their uncle's rape baby. So I would be in favor of a national policy that sets and protects women's reproductive rights and their privacy rights, because that's a related right to this. It's their reproductive freedom and their privacy rights, because it's none of the government's business what the woman does with her uterus. That is our position. Thank you.
Would you please pass that to Renee? All right, bonus round. We're going to try another yes or no question. I'm going to allow that laughter. All right, for each of you, yes or no, was the 2020 election stolen?
Yes.
I'm not going to play the game of where you tell me how I can answer, so I'm going to get into it a little bit further, and if you got to take the microphone, take the microphone. But before I went to any convenience store that I've ever been to, when I go and pay with my debit card, right on the deal it says, we're going to ask for your identification, and we're going to do this to prevent fraud. Now, I'm going to ask you, do you think the credit card companies and the convenience stores do that just on a whim? I don't either. So long as we're trying to stand up all mail-in voting in states that have never done it before for the first time ever in a matter of weeks, and you don't think there's any problems with that, go back and look at the comments in our state when we went to all mail-in voting before it was politicized, and you'll see there was actually more concern from Democrats than Republicans. All of that, when you add it all up, I can only tell you that I don't know why anybody would be against a same-day in-person voting with your identification, and that way we'll know, and we won't have to guess. Why would anybody be against that? And so when you ask yes or no questions and then you put limitations on if we can even say somebody's name, for example, it's hard to get to the context of what really is at play there. But no, with all that being said, because of mail-in voting and how I know for a fact that it's completely full of fraud, I don't think it was legitimate. I don't know how anybody would think it's legitimate, especially in states where they propped it up and had all mail-in voting for the first time ever in the history of their state. We had a lot of problems here. Go talk to Sam Reed if you don't believe that, our Secretary of State at the time. So that's my answer, and I'm proud to have that answer.
Not only do I not think the 2020 election was stolen or misrepresented in any way, I also think that the 2016 election was appropriately decided. I don't think that was a stolen election either. I just have to do a little follow-up on what Brian said, and that is that I have volunteered quite a bit at the Spokane County Elections Office. And obviously we all vote by mail here. And I have seen all stages of that process, and I don't see any problems. It's a very tight system. And I would encourage everybody in this room, if you have not been an elections observer, please go and be an elections observer and see the process for yourself. No?
No, I don't, and I think that continuing to push that is further weakening us as a country.
No.
Well, I'm going to talk about a little more too. In 2016, Inslee said that there was Russian interference and the election was stolen. One, because I was in the legislature immediately following the election and I had to listen to it. So you have grave concerns when the Ds don't win and they say there's concerns about the election, there's issues, Hillary Clinton made a statement, and then when 2020, Republicans make a statement. What the greatest concern is the lack of faith in the system. Whether it's judicial or our election process, that we have the concerns and that we both, during both times, don't have the faith to uphold one of the greatest nations on the planet Earth. Our election process is one of the greatest on planet Earth, and we should have faith in it. And in the less than 8 years, you're hearing it from both sides. I did have a policy and wanted identification. And I hear, well, people can't afford identification. Well, we have to do something because third world countries have identifications when they vote, and we have to bring back faith in our election process.
I think we know. And you've already answered it, right?
Am I starting the next one or
No,
not?
actually, we have run out of time. So I apologize for the questions that weren't asked. I thank you all very much for the questions that were asked and for all of your answers. And if you join me in thanking all of these individuals for getting grilled for We're now going to take a break until 7:30, and then we're going to listen to those individuals who are running for state legislature. And we do have state voter registration forms available if any of you need to sign up. Thank you all again.
know.
Did it record?
Yeah, but I don't know how to put it on hold. And he's going to post this recording somewhere, and I can't figure out how to hold it.
Involved in my community throughout my life, including 14 years as a volunteer firefighter EMT, chairman of the Addie Food Bank, president of the Caldwell Rotary Club, as well as multiple other nonprofits. My wife Celeste and I were farmers, selling produce at farmers markets and local grocery stores for several years before the government passed legislation that brought an end to our farm. So in 2016, I met with Congresswoman Kathy McMorris Rogers to talk about how this new law was destroying our dream. And a few months later, she actually hired me. And then for more than 7 years, I've had the privilege of working with thousands of people and many agencies and nonprofits and local governments on her behalf. Over these years, my love for people, empathy for those struggling, and passion for finding solutions to improve people's lives has continued to grow. This area is an incredible place to live, as you know, because you live here. From its mountains and waters and trees, to the diverse, hardworking, and patriotic people who make up our communities, this has been a great place to live to raise a family and to live a slower-paced life in harmony with nature. The division in our state is rapidly growing. Politics have become toxic, and the government has become less functional. Government intrusion into our lives is weighing us down, and is becoming more dangerous, complicated, and expensive to do just about anything. I see people starting to lose the American spirit, feeling beat down, and giving up hope, and I'm ready to stand in that gap and work to restore confidence in representative government for the disenfranchised and those who need help, and to protect our rural way of life. I'm a lifelong Republican who will stand on my principles while working with people from every walk of life to find common ground and build support for the solutions for the problems we face. My campaign isn't about me, it's about you and the people of this district. My experiences give me a unique understanding and qualifications to provide you with exceptional representation. Again, my name is Andrew Engel, and I ask for your vote.
Everyone here? Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. This is a great event. My name is Tegan Levine, and for over 3 decades I've lived in the 7th Legislative District. As a devoted mother to 2 boys and my daughter, and a mom to dozens of foster children, I'm sorry, I get choked up a little bit when I talk about my kids. I lost my daughter a couple months ago.
You got this.
I am driven to make their lives better. I have witnessed firsthand the extraordinary strengths that our rural lifestyle possesses. It is in these moments that I've come to realize the deep-rooted importance of preserving our rural customs and cultures. Throughout my life, I have worn numerous hats. I've been a small business owner, a farmer, a rancher, and currently serve Okanagan County in many roles. In service to our community, I have proudly held positions on the Tonasket City Council for the last 7 years, bringing tax dollars back to our community. Not only that, I have had the privilege of representing the Okanagan County Republican Party as their county chairman for 7 years. With all my experience in being a strong advocate for my kids, victims of crime, property, and water rights, I feel I am a great choice to be your next representative. We have to reinforce and prioritize public safety. We need support to support our families, our parents, and cut the regulations on home building and do everything we can to strengthen our economy and give the next generation a chance to succeed. That's my time. Thank you.
you. That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, everyone. My name is Sue Moody, and I am running for State Representative, District 7, Position 1. I'm a former small business owner and former mayor of the town of Twist for the past 13 years, and I am running as the common sense candidate here to get things done for you in Olympia. As mayor, I'm known as an independently minded leader who focuses on finding solutions to complex issues that my community cares about. For the past decade, I have been in executive leadership and president for the Association of Washington Cities, and have had the honor of being elected by city leaders from across the state to actively be at the table fighting for Eastern Washington values on statewide policies. I care deeply about the people of the 7th District and also the people of this fine county, Ferry County. Some of you may already know me through my day job, working with the Washington State Department of Commerce. I've had the pleasure of working directly with the city folks here, as well as the Friends of the Republic Library and the Ferry County Memorial Hospital to help realize some of your community's visions and help to shape the future that you'd like to see in your community for years to come. Aside from working on some of your immediate local needs, however, I've also been road tested as an effective leader through 3 federally declared wildfire disasters, testified on critical statewide issues representing small rural communities, and have no problem tackling the complex, challenging issues of the day, because I know a strong Eastern Washington voice is needed to provide balance to legislative policies often driven by West Side urban interests. The fact is, one size does not fit all, and the voice of this district really matters. With 2 very experienced legislators retiring their positions, we cannot afford to be left behind in this district. So I am running to use my skills and reputation to work with others, regardless of party or affiliation, to be effective in office for you, as a pragmatic leader and to get results. And so, thank you so much, and I ask for your vote. My name is Sue Moody. Thank you.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you to Business and Professional Women for putting on this event. My name is Hunter Abel. I'm running to succeed Joel Kretz in the legislature. What I thought I'd do tonight is talk a little bit about who I am, and my family, talk a little bit about why I'm running, and then conclude with talking a little bit about the platform that we've put together. So, many of you may know my family. Our family is 4 generations right here in Ferry County. This is our home. Many of you may have known my parents, Larry and Lacey Abel, who finished up their dental practice career just up the hill there with Dr. Hardwick for about 10 years, 1 day a month, actually 1 day a week. They come up from Enchilium and do dental work up here in Republic. My sister Vivian taught up in Curlew. She's here this week, actually right now, up in Curlew with the Stanton family. And I've got 2 beautiful little girls, 2 future business and professional women. One wants to be a teacher, one wants to be a paleontologist. So that's a little bit about myself. Let me talk about why I'm running. How many of you remember the bumper stickers that said I Heart Ferry County? Right? Yeah, a bunch of them. It says a lot about our county, right? And it says a lot about how I feel about our area, about our district, the 7th District. I heart the 7th District. This area is something special. And I'm running because I really care about this area. I care passionately about our country, care passionately about our state, and care passionately about our district. Let me tell you a little bit about my platform. So I'm running on 3 distinct planks. The first is supporting our law enforcement. I'm proud to have the support of Sheriff Maycomber here in Ferry County, a number of our current and former county commissioners and statewide law enforcement leadership. I'm also running to promote and protect our rural 7th District way of life. People live here because they want to live here, and support that representative, advocate for that in Olympia. And then lastly, I'm running to support and defend our Second Amendment rights, and all too often seen like disfavored rights by the majority party in Olympia. I think that's also true for our rights of religious exercise as well. So my name is Hunter Abel. I'm asking for your support as I run for this position too for the legislature. Thank you all. Thank you, Mother.
So thanks everyone for being here tonight. I'm Pat Bell, and I'm running for what I say is the people's seat in the people's house. So I'm originally from here in Eastern Washington. My family has farmed here and lived here for over 100 years. I grew up here. My family started with a homestead in Chesaw. Grandma had a restaurant.
great-grandpa was an Okanagan County Sheriff's deputy. My mom and dad raised 6 of us kids. We're a blended family, and I had a great upbringing. So I'm now blessed to be a father myself. I have 2 kids. My kids want to be, my 6-year-old son wants to be a bull rider, and my 9-year-old daughter wants to be a barrel racer. So you can tell we've been going to a lot of rodeos this summer. So everything, it's hard to condense your whole life story down into one of these, but anybody who wants more information, come find this. It'll save you some of the trouble of talking up here. But I had 20 years of experience in communications and public policy. I have worked in Olympia as an advocate for education. I think on education we need to get back to the basics. I think parents are the primary educators of the children and the primary stakeholder in their children's education. I think this is the first session in a long time where we saw the people's voice was represented again, and I think that has to do with initiatives. The people brought forward 6 initiatives, over 1 million plus signatures. I think we need to see more of that, more empowerment, more holding of failed politicians in Olympia accountable. I think our state's heading in the wrong direction, and I'm running to help defend faith, family, and freedom. And if that sounds like something you can get on board with, I'd appreciate your support and conversation. Really look forward to your questions tonight. I spent 8 years in the congressional office doing town halls with the congresswoman, getting around Eastern Washington, so that's where it all starts. It's where the rubber meets the road. I am proud to have the statewide endorsement of Washington Council of Police and Sheriffs, along with 3 sheriffs, 4 sitting legislators, and a number of others. Those are all up on my endorsement page on my website, including a number of you. It's great to have a warm hometown welcome, even though this isn't my hometown. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Ron McCoy. I'm from Chewewa, Washington. I was the mayor there back in 1988 until 2002. All the time growing up, I came up in a big family. I thought the hardest working women were my grandmother and my mother, and then my wife. And then I met the women of the 7th legislative district. And I said to myself, if I could be even half of what Congresswoman Morris was, I'll be a success. I served on different committees throughout the state. I served with the Association of Washington Cities. I became the president of the Northeast Mayor Association. I worked hard. I grew up. I worked 27 years at Safeway, 21 in the military. I didn't want to be in politics. But one day I woke up and I said, it's got to change. I believe that our government should be built from the bottom up and instead of top down. And that's what it's been. And so I'm very interested. I'm hoping that I get your support. My money from my campaign is all my own. I did get my first endorsement the other night, and I thought that was exciting. No money, but that's okay. I'm not running for money. I'm running for the position of legislation for our district. When I moved up here, first I came out of Spokane, and I said, where is this? We kept driving, and I'm like, then once I got up here, and I said, this is definitely God's country. So we will do everything to protect the 7th district. We're a special group, ground up. Please vote for me.
Good evening, my name is Rocky Dean. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. Do you want good, safe, and affordable housing for yourself and your community? If so, join me and raise your hand. Okay? Thank you. Do you want good jobs that will pay better or better pay for you and your community that you live in right now? Raise your hand. Okay? Do you want schools to teach the basic needs for our children and programs that will be offered to them to better help them when they graduate? Raise your hand. So that's quite a few. And then lastly, do you want to feel safe at home, at work, at play, and at your place of prayer? Raise your hand. Okay? What my point is, for having you raise your hand, if you look around and you raise your hand for one or two of these, raise your hand again, please. Now look around the room, keep your hands up. Okay, thank you. Now I'd like you to, did any of you see what I just saw? We all want the same basic needs as everybody else. We're just a little bit different. The way we get there is in the details of everything that we talk about. We're no different than the right or the left. We all want the same basics. If I can get up to Olympia, I'm going to advocate, reach across the aisle. I am a moderate Democrat. I want to talk with everybody, and I want to get into everybody's ideas, because that's the way things are getting fixed. We don't need to be choking each other, pointing fingers. We need to be coming to the middle, fixing the problems, and helping our children with a better life they deserve. My name is Paul Rocky Dean, and I hope you'll vote for me in the primary election. Thank you.
All right, now it's time for the bonus round. All right, I'm going to start with you, Andrew. And the first question is, since the Republican Party is in the minority, what is your experience in working across the aisle in Washington State?
So I've been working in Kathy McMorris Ryder's office the last 7.5 years. I've worked with a lot of people from all walks of life, including Democrats and Republicans and everybody in between. And what I found is that most people want about the same thing out of life, and that it goes a long ways if you are clear on your platform, you're not two-faced, but you listen to understand, and you can find that people have more in common than we think, and often you can find solutions, most of us, if not all of us.
So I work at the with the Okanagan County with the Okanagan County Prosecutor's Office, and for the last 4 years, I've gone over to Olympia and fought for victims' rights and trying to restore juvenile warrants. And it's not all one-sided. Everyone wants their kids to be safe. Everyone wants their kids to be held accountable. And many times I had to go over and have meetings with the Democrats and say, this is how it's going to benefit. This is how it's going to keep our kids accountable and make them safe. And this last year, the majority did not fund $1 million for victim witness or the victim funds. And after going over there 5 times, they funded that other $1 million. So we put a lot of work into that, and there was people from all prosecutors' office that went over there, but we really had to walk across the aisle and do that. So, thank you.
I want to say thank you for the question. I think this is a really important one. First off, as mayor for the last 13 years in a small town, I think you can appreciate that we don't all agree all the time. In fact, a lot of times it's through disagreement that we really get the results that our community truly finds valuable. I'm not afraid of that. I think it's actually necessary for us to have really civil discourse moving forward, regardless of where you sit, to get the work done, to represent the people that we serve. And I think this job is really all about service. My other experience, I will say, on a statewide level, though, pertains to me being president of the Association of Washington Cities. It represents all 281 cities across the entire state of Washington, including Seattle. And you can imagine when I was president during 2020, you know what that year means, which none of us want to talk about anymore, is really that it is a period of time where there was so much division, so much fear, and so much concern on statewide issues that were very important to us. And yet my job was to facilitate those conversations on, I guess, arriving at legislative priorities that we could live with. They weren't perfect, I want to say, but we were able to move the needle. And I personally was there at the table for you in this district on rural Eastern Washington values. And so I'm proud to say that that made a difference, because we need our voices heard over there in Olympia. and that's what I will continue to do for you as state representative. So thank you for that question.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think a big part of it is the ability to be a straight shooter and interact with people in a genuine manner. So I think there's 3 experiences that I have that assist me with that. One is I am a 20-year veteran of the United States Navy, both officer and enlisted, active and reserve, went over 20 years in April. So that's a big milestone for me and my family. But serving in the military teaches you to focus on the mission. It's not about yourself, it's about the team and accomplishing the mission. I think that's hugely important. My other professional background is I'm an attorney. I'm a former prosecutor. I'm a constitutionally conservative attorney, and I'll tell you, we need more of those in the legislature. We need more constitutionally conservative attorneys who will hold up our statutes to our founding documents and see if they are in proper accordance. But in being an attorney, I've been involved with our Washington State Bar Association, which to be an attorney in Washington, you have to belong. And so I got involved and was elected to the board, and I think a lot of the members of the board said, we're not quite sure what to make of this guy from Eastern Washington, a military guy. But after a number of years of serving on the board, they ultimately elected me president. We were able to keep our bar dues flat for 5 years. So that was a significant accomplishment. I was able to build good, strong relationships, even with people who disagree with me. The last thing is I'm from a small town. I'm from Inchelium, down the road. To succeed in Inchelium, you've got to be able to live and work with people who might have different thoughts and opinions than you do. I'm a member of the Inchelium Community Church, which has 12 members. So it allows me to work with other people. Thank you.
So I think the most important thing that I want in a legislator and people that I vote for is somebody who's really in touch with the issues. And I think the way you do that is you hold town halls. And I think that's where it starts. You have to listen. You have to learn about people's concerns, then you need to go to work on their behalf to try and get results. So I have 8 years experience doing that in the congressional office. I've also worked, as I said earlier, as an advocate in education in Olympia already. And you can't work in an issue like education and not do it in a bipartisan way. It has to be bipartisan to get anything done. And so working across the aisle, I think, is something that comes natural to me, especially on the issues that we all care about. But I will tell you, this document that I carry with me, the U.S. Constitution, it's where our primary values come from. I think more people need to reread this, not try and reinterpret it or rewrite it for that matter. And then I'm informed by my faith. So I'm a churchgoer, my family, I was brought up as a Christian. Those are my values. Those are the things we don't compromise on. Those are the things I won't compromise on. But as your elected representative, I want to be persuadable, I want to be accessible, I want to be visible on the issues you care about, and that's my job, is to speak for this district. I want you to feel like I'm voting the way that you would vote if you had this job. And so it's a pretty simple approach that I bring to the table.
How I work with the different Republican and Democrats, it's pretty simple. Like said down here earlier, in the military, you don't ask what color, you don't ask what their deal is, you have a mission. And it does not matter whether you're Republican or Democrat when it comes to the table. Working with Tri-County Economic Development for a very short period, Rural Resources Board, also Association of Washington Cities. You have to put something on your back that says I'm tough, because you have to wear a thick layer of armor. Stand up for what we believe in, and I think that's, if I get to Olympia, that's exactly what I'll do. 2 of my goals are to work with small businesses in the agriculture district. I'm not a farmer, but I do care when our farmland is turned into apartments. We can't eat apartments. That's our food chain, and if we don't protect Eastern Washington, we're screwed. Sorry.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. I am a moderate Democrat. I haven't been in any kind of government. I sit on the city council in the town I'm in. I'm in position number 1, and it's a very diverse group that we deal with. So we don't always agree on everything. We usually go and we'll sit outside the back patio out there and we'll discuss stuff. And what we do is we put up a whiteboard and we come up with plans and ideas how to tackle certain issues at hand. The biggest thing, like my constituents up here said, have been military-wise. I've been in the military for 26 years. I just retired 5 years ago. And that has learned and taught me every walk of life, every person you deal with is a diversity that you have never encountered before, because no two people are the same. You take that, you put that in your toolkit, and like you were saying, mission first, get the job done, you listen to the hires, but in this particular instance, being a legislator, I think is going to be a great experience, because I'm going to be the voice for the counties and districts. And that's what I'm looking to serve you guys. And I hope you'll approve that and vote for me in the primaries.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you all for staying within the time limits. Rocky, why don't you hold on to that? So the next question is, what do you think the state can do to keep communities safe from wildfires?
Wow, that's a really great question. As we were coming up here tonight, my campaign manager was getting dings on her phone because we keep track of the district wildfires. There was 2 more that popped up in Stevens County and Spokane County as we were coming up here. I think the best way to tackle that is, I think homeowners who have property should be the most responsible for their property. And then once you get out into the rural areas, like this beautiful area up here, there needs to be a forest mitigation plan to clean it up and thin it down, I guess you would say, because fires, they thrive on the smallest little piece of wood. I don't know how that looks, other than reaching across the aisle and working with some of my folks, Republican, Democrats. We just need to come together and figure out the best way. But I think forest mitigation and keeping them thinned down is the best way to go.
First off, the best protection we got is ourselves. Most of the smaller cities, the rural cities, have volunteer firemen. We need to invest in them, get them properly trained. Also, let your neighbors clean up their yard. You clean it up with them. I mean, jump in and help them. That's what we're all about, is community. So I think that's the best protection we've got, is ourselves.
So unfortunately, if you're like me and spend a lot of time outside, either in the fields or recreating in the summer, it feels like we have a 5th season now called smoke season. And we're all out here choking on smoke. And I think a lot of that comes back to poor forest management. The government owns millions of acres in this state and has not kept up with what's needed to make sure that our timber is healthy and that our forests are productive. So I think we need to do something on that for sure with DNR. But I've also, in the congressional office, had the unfortunate role of watching wildfires all summer. And now at the county, had that same responsibility this last summer. So when disasters do strike, we have to be ready. We have a state emergency management department that's organized with resources from the National Guard. They were the ones who were evacuating Eastern State Hospital when the fires ravaged Spokane County. And I think we can all expect to see more of that, unfortunately. We lost a small town in 2020, Malden, which burned to the ground. We were there on the ground with the congressional team and with the governor's office very soon thereafter, talking to those townspeople and how we were going to get them resources and how we were going to get them help. And so knowing the disaster programs and being prepared is an important experience I bring to the position. I think, like I said, wildfires are an unfortunate fact of life now, but I'm also proud to be volunteering for Stevens County Fire District 1 as a water tender driver to get out on some of the big fires that are affecting my community, and also to be a volunteer with Stevens County Citizens Action Team, which assists the Sheriff's Office with emergency management.
Yeah, thank you. As we all know here in the room, this is a life and death issue for a lot of us who live out in rural areas. So it was August of 2022 that my girls and my parents and I fell asleep one evening, and we could see in the horizon an orange glow. And at 3 a.m. we were woken up by a tribal police officer saying, evacuate, evacuate now. So my mom grabbed the Bible, the photo albums of my kids, and hit the road, because we were concerned that our little county road, Barnaby Creek Road, would be cut off. And she went over to Kettle Falls, and they had a very, very early breakfast at McDonald's in Colville when it opened. My dad and I stayed behind, and we threw up a fire line you could see from space. We just did a huge fire line around the house and around the outbuildings, and we took our time to try and do what we could to try and save our place. Unfortunately, I'm glad to say that we didn't lose any outbuildings that day. We didn't lose the ranch house. So that's very good news. We must do a better job with managing public lands throughout the 7th District. You know, I mentioned before, I'm a constitutionally conservative attorney, something that
attorneys are taught about in law school is something called malpractice. Folks, we have malpractice in the operation and the maintenance of our federal and state lands here in the state of Washington. And that's a real problem. It's going to take leadership by whoever's elected in either of these positions, both these positions, positions 1 and 2, to advocate for the proper maintenance and the proper upkeep of our state and federal lands. Thank you.
Well, I also agree that we need to proactively fight the fires, and I want to say my background is that I do come from a family of firefighters, smoke jumper base manager, father-in-law sitting there here with us tonight, doing air attack as well. I also can say that I'm the only mayor that I know of that has been unfortunately in service during the 3 federally declared wildfires starting in 2014 with the Carlton Complex, and then the Twist River Fire with the Okanagan Complex, where we lost 3 firefighters, unfortunately, fighting for our town. And then following that, the 2021. We've had fires almost every year in our region, our district certainly, and it is a real big deal. What I noticed on the ground during the fires, especially in 2014, and I have been advocating for this for us here, is in regards to communications improvements. We need that on the ground for our firefighters that actually come to help us and respond to these fires as much as we do, the firefighting. Because ultimately, and the proactive force maintenance, but ultimately we don't have the proper communications, evacuations, emergency alerts, the support systems that we need for our firefighters is also not up to speed, and we really need to work on that so that we have a network, a system that is functioning for all of us for public safety purposes. During times of non-emergency, but during times of emergency, we need the system to work for us. So it does need to be properly funded. So thank you so much for the question.
Everyone's really focused on the reactive end of this, but who here has not heard log it, graze it, or watch it burn? Logging has pretty much shut down in Okanagan County. We had 2 mills get scrapped. They're not doing a whole lot of logging over there. I was talking with someone earlier and talking about thinning, clearing out underbrush so fires didn't move as fast. We need logging to happen. We need our ranchers to be able to graze, and we need to minimize the fuel that is creating these catastrophic wildfires. We got a lot of money being pumped into our areas for fighting them. We got planes in the air, and everyone's doing a great job now and getting them out real quick, which is great. But if we don't be proactive and we don't encourage and incentivize those forests to be utilized, we will continue to have catastrophic wildfires.
Having been a firefighter, I have a few ideas on helping from that front, but I agree with Tegan here that the most important thing is forest management and being proactive. And I believe that our state is actually doing much better than the federal government at managing our state lands, and that needs to continue and go further. However, the individuals who own land, I think we need some education to help them understand what they need to do with their land to make it more resilient to wildfire, as well as utilizing the programs that exist and making it simpler for them to do so. So like the DNR program for fuels reduction is a great program. I think we also need to add in some ability for them to remove marketable timber because sometimes it just doesn't go far enough. And I think some permitting reforms so that it's simpler to get an ability to log. You shouldn't have to go through a complicated process if you own 5 acres of land with trees around your house.
Great, would you have the microphone to Tegan?
I think Tegan, you're next up for starting the answer. So, the question is, what is your plan to get better internet and cell phone service in Eastern Washington?
Okay, so we all had, I mean, we've seen it. It's, you go through the 7th district, every single person up here has drove from one end to the other, and you're like, okay, talk to you in 4 hours. Because that's what happens. Well, I think it was last year or the year before, Representative Kretz, and I believe maybe even Maycomber, was working on some funding and some legislative changes so that Starlink was better accessible. And Starlink's been great. I know many people that are living out in the middle of nowhere and they're like, hey, I got internet now. So it's really opening up kids to be able to do school from home, people to work remotely. And it's better when you're living with a 70-year-old grandma out in the middle of the woods. You can get help when you need it. So I think that we should incentivize more Starlink to come out the area.
Thank you. I served on the Broadband Action Team in the Medha Valley, which then became the Okanagan Broadband Action Team. And it was important for long-term recovery, but it's also really important. I've been talking about broadband for over 10 years now, and communications that actually will work for us regardless of where we live. I think that the one thing that we do know is right now we've got millions of dollars that have come into the state for communications improvements. However, we need to make sure still, and it's open right now, that we get it for this district, this 7th district right now, because there are maps being created right now that are not representative of whether or not you actually truly have broadband. And I think we really need to ensure that that map is correct, and then those funds come to this area where we need it to build out those communications technologies that we need for our healthcare, education, and our future economy. So this is really critical. The time is now. And so I think we do need to further explore what that looks like at the state so we can strengthen communities like ours that don't have that sufficient broadband and telecommunication systems that is needed right now. So I will work on that.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the pleasures I have of living in this area is I get a chance to work with a number of great organizations, including the Television Association of Republic, which is, the name is a little misleading. It's pretty much internet access. So I do have some familiarity with the challenges and some of the fixes that can potentially exist in our area and throughout the 7th. There's been some good legislative groundwork done by Representatives Kretz and Maycomber that I think we can build on. And also seek to leverage the private sector to try and help address this issue. I also want to say that this is intimately related to allowing the people who live in this district to have the kind of lives that they want to have if they choose to live here. I'm very fortunate. Like I said, I'm a constitutionally conservative attorney. Our firm's got an office in Spokane, which means I go in a couple of days a week, but the rest of the time I work from the kitchen table because we have Starlink, right? That's what allows me to do that. This was not possible for me, even just, probably 5 years, certainly not pre-pandemic. The expectation is that I would be there, 5 days a week. So if we want to have more doctors, veterinarians, nurses, those professionals here in the 7th, we're going to need to address the cell phone access, the internet access, and I think this will allow us to have better qualities of lives for everybody who lives here in the 7th. Thank you.
So this is an issue I was really proud to work on in the congressional office with Kathy. We would be traveling these back roads, she'd be needing to make important calls, and the call would drop, just like Tegan was talking about. So much so that when we had a chance to bring out a commissioner of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, she thought it would be fun to take him on some of these rides so he could see what it's like when you're driving through Ferry County. At one point, they tried to say that Ferry County was 100% covered. And then a couple of the tech companies came in and said, no, we can see it's like 10 or 15% or maybe 20% if you're lucky. Right? They were shocked to hear this. So we do need better data. Some of that data has been uploaded into the state database. But we stand to benefit from about $1 billion of federal investment. Now you probably all heard that with the federal stimulus under Obama, we were going to get internet. Did we get it? No. Now we've heard with Biden that we're going to get better connectivity. And so I think the challenge this time is to make sure those dollars actually get to where they're needed. Not to overbuild to this school and this library, but really get it out to the places that need it. I think we have to be technology agnostic, meaning yes, satellite in some areas, fiber in others, fixed wireless in others. There's a cow truck, a communications on wheels truck that can go up in the event of an emergency or disaster that can be deployed very quickly. And so I'd like to see more of those technologies. But I'll just end with this. I remember talking to a farmer and Kathy said, how would you like to have 5G? And he said, Kathy, I'd settle for 1G.
Internet and phone service. I call my son. It's horrible when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you can't communicate. You feel lost, helpless. When we're talking about fires and stuff, we need that communication. I'm not an expert in internet and cell phone. I'm an expert user, and I get very frustrated when I can't use it. So again, I'm not real. I just know I need it.
I'm pretty much in the same boat as you, Ron. I'm an expert user, but it's kind of ironic. I was on an ag rural caucus Zoom meeting here last week, and the discussion of broadband and fiber optics came up. And Lisa Wolf pointed out a good point, and we seen it when we were coming up here today. Just outside of Caldwell, they're digging and they're putting more lines in right now. So what it is you've got a circular area of fiber optics right now, and it's underneath our feet. I'm not sure about Ferry County or where you all live or where I live, but I do know from the end of Chewelah up through Caldwell and it ends in Kettle Falls. It's under your feet. You've got the internet highway, but it's like a freeway with no darn off-ramps, right? Nobody can access it, and that's what was supposed to be put in, what Pat was talking about. So the people are being shortchanged, but the money's going to somebody else who's lining their pockets. Don't know how that looks, like my partner here, Ron said, but once we get into Olympia, we'll figure this all out. But it's on the way. They're in the midst of putting it in the ground. We need to have access to it. Starlink is good, I think, but not everybody can afford Starlink because it's a very expensive startup, even though it is a good program.
Sir?
Internet has become a critical infrastructure in today's age. Kids need it for school, and business people need it. I know that it hasn't been, I've been the broadband lead for the congressional office for quite a while, and part in a lot of these broadband action teams, as well as talking with ISPs and ILEX, Betty Buckley, and others. And we have a lot of problems with this. There's a lot of coordination that's needed. Sometimes we do have overbuilding. I think things have gotten a lot better actually in the broadband front. People are starting to realize we need to work together. The broadband action teams have been effective at making sure that the local voices are being heard before this money is going out to a local community that in a place that's not best suited. I believe the private sector can solve a lot of these problems, but there are certain pieces that public dollars are needed to get those fiber lines or various aspects put together. So on all of the above, I believe we need to be looking at each individual situation and finding the best solution for it.
Did you want to start?
Yes.
Good, okay. So I think this next question.
All right. Tell us your background and experience. Tell us how your background and experience have prepared you to be an effective state representative.
Okay, well, that's a big question. I think it really comes down to having, knowing what the job really is as representative, and that is to really represent you, the people on the ground. That's my number one priority. It's really to understand what your needs are. But that being said, it also takes understanding and the know-how to navigate Olympia right now and what that means to get work done. We are, as Republicans, a minority, and so it does take working across the aisle and with all different groups and peoples, no matter where you are. What I'd like to actually do when I get in there, if you vote for me, is I would like to be able to initiate your voice, and so that we are oftentimes responding to as reactions to a lot of bills that are put forward with urban West Side interests. And I would really like to start to build on top of the work that's already been done by Representative Kretz and Maycomber to really continue that work to do representing you here so that we can actually get those bills out ahead on these very important issues that matter here to you. So I think it's about the know-how, the experience of having worked with others across the aisle. I will also say the relationships that I built over in Olympia and statewide are going to be an asset, because there is so much that needs to be done for building trust as well. And I think that's another thing. Right now, we sometimes have a hard time coming together to even talk about issues, and that's what I would like to do when representing you here. Thank you.
Yeah, my background is in Chilean, the private sector, the military, and the ranch. I thought I'd talk about just briefly each of them. So in Chilean, I was born over in Colville, raised in Chilean, went K through 12. So go Hornets, we play 8-man football. I think some of the biggest losses we had were right here in Republic. So I think that provides helpful background in trying to seek to represent our district. It's been formative years here and then choosing to come back here. I also come from the private sector. I'm a business owner at my firm, which means I deal with all the same challenges that every other business owner deals with. Making sure all the bills are paid, making sure your employees are paid, making sure you deal with all the administrative regulations that come down from Olympia to see if you're able to make a profit, and then you get paid last. That's how I pay my bills, is from the private sector. I'm also very proud to say that my firm has created jobs right here in the 7th District. I'm very proud of that. So in addition to that, I also come from the military. As Ron and Rocky were talking about, the military teaches you a lot. It really teaches you to focus on the mission, putting your men and women ahead of yourself. It teaches you about servant leadership. And the last, I come from the ranch. We've got a 3rd generation ranch now. My kids are pretty little. I hope it'll be a 4th generation ranch. It's primarily timber, but what that means is I've also worked in that process of getting the forest practices application permit. It's a nightmare. You shouldn't need a forestry major and a minor in art to be able to log your own timber. Thank you.
So I think it's really important, I'll just make a comment before I get into my background, that you really look at the candidates' biographies and who's got the connections and who has lived here and who has worked here and who really has a grasp of the issues. Because I think that's the value that I bring in this race. I have the experience working in Olympia before, I have the experience working in a congressional office, I know legislative issues, I know how to get things done. But I've also been connected to the dirt here most of my life. Almost all of my life. And whether that was summers cutting hay on the ranch, I'm a farm kid, came up at 4-H, worked my way through college, cutting fish in Alaska. It's one of the times I left the district. But I've had some amazing opportunities, and I want our kids to have those same opportunities. As I said, I'm a family man. I'm raising 2 kids now. I know the struggles of working parents. I couldn't be doing this without the blessing of my wonderful wife, who is giving a lot right now, so I can be out here talking with you all. She's probably, it's not quite bedtime yet, but it will be soon. But I've also been deeply involved in the community. Organizations like Union Gospel Mission, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Sons of the American Legion. And I think that's really what I would say was the highlight of my time in the congressional office, was helping our veterans get the benefits they earned, helping hundreds, if not thousands, of veterans across this district. And so that will be a priority if I get to Olympia, and also supporting our men and women in law enforcement. All those law enforcement endorsements matter to me, and I'd be honored to be their advocate in Olympia.
Well, mine's a little bit different. It might sound kind of awkward, but for 27 years in the Safeway cashier, I worked in service. I believed in getting someone what they wanted. I don't care if they had $1 million or they had 10 cents. What mattered to me is getting the product. So I think all my years with Safeway, I did quite well. All my years in the military, we stayed focused on the mission. I have no regrets for either one of them, and I think I can take those 2 skills, plus raising over 30 kids in our house. It was always a joke when I would go away. They'd say, "How many kids you got, Ron?" I said, "I haven't been home yet." So, I mean, that's my wife. She kept taking in children. We adopted 6 children. All those things together helps me become the person that I need to be.
I don't have quite as an extensive background here in the state. From when we retired, we found this little town called Springdale, and right away I went and tried to get on the city council. I've been here ever since. So like I said, it's 4.5 years on there. We've been here 5 years. I've been down in the weeds with this campaign. I've been to over 20 cities in this district.
And I think the best thing I'm going to be able to take to Olympia is by listening to everybody's concerns. I did one of my first speaking gigs here in Republic, and I ain't gonna lie, I think I pretty much made an ass out of myself. But I've learned, because I learned to listen. By listening to people's concerns and what they want and what they need, those are things that need to be taken to Olympia. And being in the military for as many years as I said earlier, 26 years in logistics, it's all about how you move stuff. And I've got the experience for that, and my wife, who's here in the audience tonight, backs me up on everything. And without her, I wouldn't get up out of bed in the morning, because I am retired. I'm a military veteran who is disabled. So I'm out here not even doing this for the money. There's no bill I'll ever write that I'll ever get anything out of. I'm doing it for the people of the state and the people of the 7th Legislative District. Thank you.
So for me, I grew up in Colville. I think early background, I was in my 4-H club, president of my 4-H club. That was important for me. I remember at the fair, with all my spare time to be spent going from the Democrat booth, asking what they think, or asking what they think about the Republicans, go to the Republican booths, tell them what the Democrats said about us, what they think about that. And it was a very eye-opening experience. And from there, I got too old for 4-H, and I learned to just really love meetings and people. So I started going to all the community meetings I could find. Farm Bureau, the Fair Association meetings, anything I could find. I ended up settling at the fire department, where I stayed for 14 years until I got the job for Kathy. For work, I grew up working for my dad. He's a contractor in the Colville area, and I continued in construction until the 2008 crash, when there wasn't much construction left, and that's when I switched, got married, and started an organic vegetable farm. But what I think qualifies me for this position is the thousands of people that I've talked to over the years, and I've worked with on so many different federal issues predominantly, but you hear about all these state issues as well. And I think that people have found I'm a good listener, I can work well with anyone, and that I will work hard and make a difference for the people I serve.
My background's a little bit different. I actually grew up in Seattle, and when I hit 17 years old and graduated, I came to Eastern Washington. So as soon as it was my choice, I made the 7th District my home. I've had several small businesses. I had a construction and plumbing company over in Okanagan County, and that was very interesting, working contracts and making sure that we built a home that people could live in for generations. I've sat on the City Council for 7 years. I've been the Okanagan County Republican Party Chairman for 7 years. I've sat on the Okanagan Long-Term Recovery Board. I think we've rebuilt over 40 homes now. And with all of that, there was contracts. Of all of that, there was working with people. Of all of that, there was finding out what they needed, what they wanted, and making it happen. And sometimes there was hurdles. And we worked on those, and it made it happen. Got the 30-second mark. Anyways, with all of that, I think that's working with different people and different subjects, and makes me a good representative. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to leave that there. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to all questions, but we never do, darn it. So please join me in a round of applause for every individuals who are going to state representatives. You just leave your name tags there, or name plates. Thank you again. And now we need the candidates for County Commissioner, please. Anywhere you'd like to be. Just a reminder to those of you, if anyone cannot stay, please take your information, your signs, whatever with you. I don't want to have to just recycle it. So please take your lovely information with you if you are leaving.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions for the commissioner, now's your moment.
No more questions? Oh my goodness, we got a lot of questions.
There you go.
All right, we're going to rock and roll. Somebody just handed me a very large stack of questions, so we're going to try to get through as many as we possibly can, which means, all you wonderful candidates, brevity is vastly appreciated. But you do get your 2 minutes, so please take your 2 minutes.
Good evening, my name is Teresa Jenkins. I would enjoy earning your vote for the District 1 County Commissioner seat. A little bit about me. I've been asked, why am I running? And the simple answer is, for my 2 boys. I want them to have economic opportunities when they graduate in a few years. I want them to have a safe county to grow up in. I want them to have good, safe roads to travel on to buy local food for the families when they grow up here in Ferry County, because I want my boys with me. I don't want to chase them around the country because they're busy chasing opportunities. Why do I think I would make a great commissioner? Well, I've got a lot of experience that lends itself to the business of county commissioner. The county commissioner basically, it's like the executive of the county. They set the policy. They set the tone of what can and can't be done. Kind of the legislators, if you will. For the past 2 years, I've been with Curlew Fire and EMS as an EMT. I've also been the grant administrator, where I've raised a little under $250,000 in the last 14 months. They've not received a grant before that. Prior to that, 10 years running Vulcan Mountain Farm, did a lot of contracts, dealt with a lot of 3-letter state agencies, did a lot of compliance, licensing, and staying all in the good graces with a federally not so friendly substance without any violations. Before that, 20 years in financial services. I've hired people, fired people, built budgets, gone over taxes, marketing, and lots of contracts. I'm assertive, I ask tough questions, and I can deal with tough situations and difficult personalities. I can bridge the gap, I can make things happen.
That's quite lovely, but no clapping. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Lisa Blakeney. I'm running for County Commissioner District 1 because I want to serve you, the residents of Ferry County. I bought my beautiful slice of Ferry County in Curlew in 2018 with a plan to move here permanently in 3 to 5 years. COVID hit in 2020, and by 2021 I had had enough of what the chaos of, this fly is bugging me, the craziness on the coast. So I sold my home in Lakewood, quit my job, and moved here in July of 2021. I would rather be delayed by a tractor any day than 10,000 cars on the same roadway trying to get where they're going during rush hour. I proudly made this beautiful county my home, and I love it here and have no plans to leave. I believe our local government needs a bit more transparency and accountability. Technology can work for the commission too. I believe transparency is our commitment to the public. I intend to bring both transparency and accountability to the commission. I believe the people of Ferry County deserve to be heard and to have your opinions valued. I've seen that not happen at various various commissioner meetings. If you attend the meetings, I will make sure that you are heard and that your values are, or that your opinions are valued, even if I don't agree with you. I do want to do more to support local small businesses and welcome some new small business without the need for large corporations. I want to keep our authentic small community intact, but we have room for a few more local small businesses or services. Finally, I want you to know that I'm not a politician. I'm just a regular person, probably a lot like most of you, but rather I'm a collaborator, I'm a team player, and I'm a leader. I want to get involved to serve the residents of Ferry County. I'm a conservative independent who brings practical solutions to our small town problem. There's my time.
Thank you all very much. I'm Lorna Johnson and I live in the Curlew area. I was born in Spokane to a family farm, and I came to Ferry County 49 years ago at the age of 18. I married and I raised 3 kids here. If you elect me, here are my priorities as commissioner: budgets, public safety, and property rights. I have to read this. I've marked out a lot because I had three minutes on here. Anyways, the budget of the county is the #1 job of the commissioners. I would endeavor to explore the budget for improvement and accountability. I have years of experience of budgeting and making every dollar count. Another top priority for me in our county is community safety, law enforcement. This includes working with the Sheriff's Office on the problem of keeping deputies in the county and the drug abuse issues that are affecting the families deeply. And I'm in favor of the drug court. It has been successful in this county. I am a planning commissioner, and I recently voted against the current changes made to the comprehensive plan, which encumbered approximately 89,000 acres of our people's properties under the false heading of agricultural lands of long-term commercial significance. I was the only planning commissioner who voted no. This change has already affected 2 families that I am aware of who cannot divide their property between their children. I am a property rights advocate. I love working with people, I'm a good listener, and I care about the people of this county. I know what the job of the commissioner entails and understand the hard work and long hours. I sincerely ask for your vote. Lorna Johnson, District 1, and I'd be honored to serve you as commissioner.
Now I gotta find out how fast 2 minutes goes, right? Yeah. My name is Shauna X, and I'm running for District 1 Commissioner. I've served as District 1 Commissioner from 2017 to 2020. So I know what the job is. I've done the job actual day to day. I've had 15 years of experience in regards to volunteers for anywhere from the Planning Commission to Rural Resource, a lot of different boards I've served on, and a lot of different places I've gone in regards to the county. For all the stuff that in 2012, I wrote the Code of the West, which is a document, it's a resolution that was passed by the commissioners. It's Resolution 2012-03, and I also collaborated with the Farm Bureau to write ordinance, which was the Right to Farm, Ranch, and Practice Forestry, which is ordinance number 2012-018. We have to stand on, I know we have to follow certain regulations, but we also have to look ahead what's coming down the pipe, what the future may bring to the county in order to protect ourselves for what may be taken away from us, because we do want our customs and cultures. We do live here for a reason, and we want to protect and keep what we've got here. As a commissioner, in 2020, I was in Washington, D.C. when COVID hit and the world exploded. I was actually the next meeting I got was going to be to keep the border open in Danville. I've done the job for 4 years. I am dedicated. Right now we have an appointed commissioner, we have a 2-year commissioner, the experienced commissioner that we have will be leaving that seat. I believe that Ferry County needs an experienced commissioner moving forward in 2024. I appreciate your vote and your time. Thank you.
This thing's hot. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Zach Trudell. Stumbled on that. I'm Zach Trudell. I'm currently serving as the commissioner for the 3rd district here in Ferry County, a position that I've been in since the beginning part of April, not April Fool's Day, a little while after that. But it's a job that I'd like to keep. I'm starting to enjoy it, and I'm starting to figure out how to do it. Well, at least I think I am. But I'd like to keep the job. A little bit about who I am. I was raised from birth in Inchelium. Go Hornets. Same with Hunter. Raised there where my kids are the 5th generation to call home. There's some experience that I have that further illustrates how special this county is. I served 23 years with the U.S. Navy, and when you get among another group of people that everybody's away from home, what does everybody talk about? Everybody talks about home. And so I had many conversations that went something like this. Somebody tells a story about the shenanigans that they used to do around home, wherever that rural home, usually it was rural home was. And then it would always end with, yeah, but you could never get away with that now. So in 2020, after I was done with my active duty and contractor time, my wife and 2 little guys moved back here. And so many people have said it this evening, they moved back here or they live here because they want to. We moved back here on purpose. And I can tell you this, that my boys, with very few exceptions, are growing up exactly the same way that I did. One of the very few things that I feel are my main aims as a county commissioner are infrastructure, public safety, and protecting this way of life that we all enjoy. Thank you.
So let's talk infrastructure. You can remain standing or you can sit down to answer the question, whichever you would prefer. This is for all the candidates. How do you plan on maintaining the gravel roads within the county?
I was hoping somebody would ask that question. I live on this little road, little slice of heaven called Silver Creek Road. And I can tell you with no hesitation, this is the single worst road that I have experienced in my life. My plan is to make as many relationships as I can. I have established a relationship with the county road manager, and I am trying to find any sorts of grants, because we don't have any money in this county, or so it seems, to do roads. My plan is to see what sort of grants that there are for little bitty counties out in the middle of nowhere that don't have any money for roads. I don't know how successful that will be, but that's my primary goal, is to search for grants.
I had a conversation with Public Works again the other day about our county roads. Personally, I think our county road department does a great job. They have 750 miles of road that they take care of in the county. Fortunately, for the last 3 years, commissioners haven't had to take money out of the Public Works budget in order to augment the county budget. That gave them an extra $500,000. Most of the machinery that the county shops have is either old enough to drink or old enough to vote. So, and they don't have enough people. The people that they're hiring on are last winter was they could hire people on, but they didn't have a CDL, so they couldn't plow snow. So there's constantly things that they run into, and I understand that we all want a better road. I live on a 5-mile road that can be a hoop-de-doo and has been almost 50 years. But the bottom line is, it's not the commissioner's job to do something about the roads. Public Works is in charge of the roads, and we work hand in hand with Public Works, and I do think that they do an excellent job for what they've got.
John and I lived on the same road for 9 years. I moved off the mountain. They fixed the goat trail. Okay? We know what a bad road really is. Okay? And they brought a lot of money in at one point and widened roads and straightened curves and all kinds of stuff, a number of the different roads throughout the county. There's only so much you can do, but I do have a word of advice. If you guys would drive slower, leave home 5-10 minutes early. Drive slower. You wouldn't make that washboard. You guys are making the washboard. Okay? Anyways, I would work with the road department to find money, and Zach, if you elect me. Thank you.
Again, I would work with Public Works to make sure that some of these roads that are pretty bad, I've been on several of them, would get, some treatment of some sort. And work with Zach, if he gets elected, to find some grants that would help pay for that.
Well, Zach can work with me to get some grants to pay for that. And I want to apologize first and foremost because that 18,000-pound ambulance, it doesn't leave 5 or 10 minutes early, and it's big and heavy. And the old one did not have 4-wheel drive, so you couldn't put it into 4-wheel drive to stop the ruts. So, sorry all y'all. Partly our fault. But we need to do better as a community if we can leave earlier, as Lorna suggested. If we can put it into 4-wheel drive, go a little slower. You're going to stop those ruts. If you can clear your culverts, that helps a bit. I maintain the end of Graves Road. It's still county road, but I do my part because I know that the road crew can only do so much. And as many grant dollars as we throw at them, there's still only so many people to do all those roads. So we're going to do the best we can with what we have. We're going to depend on our road crews. They know the roads, they know what's best, they know what needs to be graded when it needs to be graded. I know everybody complains and gripes. Why isn't my road all bumpy? Why is it all bumpy? Why isn't it graded? They're doing what they can. They do it when it's raining. Can't grade a road in the middle of August. Well, you can. You're just going to break all your equipment, and that doesn't work. Otherwise, Zach and I got to go get more grants.
All right, so hold on to the microphone. We'll have you start the next question. The next question is, what involvement do you see the commissioners have in improving water quality of Curlew Lake, which is one of the main economic drivers of our county?
I'll admit I can't speak terribly eloquently to the current water quality of Curlew Lake. I don't spend a lot of time in it. I'm more of a Kettle River gal. I do know there are some ways to improve water quality that don't involve toxic chemicals. That would be one thing to do. Other than that, a lot more research, and I apologize I can't answer this more effectively.
I'm going to be in a similar boat, but I think we need to look at various options that are organic or something like that that would help that problem. That's all I can say about it.
The question isn't real clear. Water quality because of the weeds or the septic systems? I know there was a study done years and years ago, lots of money paid out on Curlew Lake. Whatever came of that? Nothing was done. So I'd have to talk to the people around Curlew Lake on the association to give you a better answer. Thank you.
I'm pretty much in the same boat with that. I think this is one of the things that the commissioners have to spread out and learn, and one of the vast things that the commissioners spread out and learn, because there's other people that are stepping in, other people around the lake, I know, that have been involved in what we can do. I know there was a weed eater or something, lost something that was bought to try and clear weeds and things out of the lake. I don't know if that ever went anywhere. So there's been attempts at doing things, but again, like what Warren said, I'm not sure what quality we're talking about in regards to septic and in regards to purity, because it has, for a number of years, had a lot of problems that we need to go backwards to straighten out.
So the first thing that I would say is having to know about it. And so we've got step one done already. So the next move from my view is to look into it through the lens of the commissioner's scope. Figuring out, is it something that resides in our wheelhouse? Is that something that we need to do? Is that something that we need to reach out to another organization in order to rectify? And through that, I would say somewhere interwoven in there, look to find what's the contributor. You know, as has been said, is it a weed issue, is it a sewage issue, or whatever? But find the proverbial smoking gun, which will help us to narrow down, is that a job for the commissioners? Is that, like I said, is that a job to reach out to another another entity who does things like that.
All right, if you hand the mic to Jonna, who gets to be first up on the next question. A two-parter. Since beginning your campaign, how many, this says BOCC, I'm going to assume that means Board of County Commissioner meetings have you attended? And how many Board of County Commissioner boards do you sit on? Whoever asked this question, did I get it right? Is that what BOCC stands for?
So since filing for the campaign, if I have heard the question right.
Since beginning your campaign.
Since beginning my campaign.
How many BOCC meetings have you attended? And how many BOCC boards do you sit on?
Since I filed, I've been to almost every Monday meeting all day with the commissioners to see what's going on. Since the beginning of the year, I've probably been to an additional 3 or 4 meetings in regards to different topics. How many boards do I sit on? Okay, I sit on the Planning Commission as an advisor. I've been on the Planning Commission for probably 14 years. I sit on the Rural Recreation Resource Board. I attend the CHIP meetings, which is in regards to the Health Department. I go to the Quad County Forestry Group, and I have for probably 14 or 15 years. I started attending the Eastern Washington Council of Governments, which is the probably 13 counties in Eastern Washington that meets every other month and talk about similar problems and go together to have a bigger voice in regards to things anywhere from the Superfund and cleanup to blowing the dams that we talked about earlier. I go to the Quad County Forestry meetings in regards to the forest and other things in regards to the public works and the homeless. I've been to those meetings as well.
Okay, since April when I announced, I have been to 1 meeting, and I had to make special arrangements to be able to do that because I drive for volunteer chore services and I have a dialysis patient on Mondays, which will change if you elect me as commissioner. Anyways, boards, currently I'm on the Kettle River Advisory Board, the Curlew Mosquito District Board, and the Planning Commission, and I may be forgetting 1 or 2. But previously I was on the Recreation Board, the Historical Board, and that's it for the county.
Since announcing, I've been watching on WebEx the meetings as often as I could, but I have a day job at the district court, so I haven't always been able to watch, but I try to watch every Monday meeting. And I'm not on any other boards yet.
I watch the county meetings virtually. I'm not on any county boards. I do serve as the president of the Curlew Volunteer Fire and EMS Association, and I do attend all the meetings of the Ferry County Fire Protection District number 14.
Thank you. Would you hand the mic to Lisa? Next question. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You can't take this one from me.
Oh, sorry.
I've been to all of them. Some of the boards, I see John a lot. I'm on the weed board. I'm on the Quad County Forest Group. I'm on the Eastern Washington Council of Governments. I participate in the Washington State Association of Counties, as well as being attached to the Aging and Long-Term Care Committee, and probably a couple of others that I can't remember. Thank you.
Now we got it better. Yes. Thank you.
All right, your question is... Are we okay? Okay. What is your position regarding state setback regulations and building in a wetland?
I can't say I know a lot about either one of those things, but I guess setbacks are necessary, but I know that there's different opinions from different people, and I would be open to listening to what people want to decide for themselves.
my turn. I know a lot about this. Having been on the Planning Commission since 2005, you're really foolish to build in a wetland. It's called flooding, okay? As far as setbacks, I do have a bone to pick with growth management because we went and did all the research and we found that in the Kettle River area, as an example, if you're gonna have a setback, it depends on the topography. But the Growth Hearings Board wants 250 feet or you don't get an okay. Even though the science says 50 feet here, 75 feet there, 150 feet there, okay? They want a blanket setback, and that's what they got because they wouldn't approve us.
So what Wanda said, but then also we had, with the Farm Bureau stepped up with the Hearst decision and the Volunteer Stewardship Program so that agriculture is allowed to farm up to the edge of the river. They have good agricultural practices in the Volunteer Stewardship Program. The bar was set in 2011 for the type of environment you had and the quality that you had and the things that you took care of. That's where the bar is. Since then, everybody that's on the Volunteer Stewardship Program moves forward, but they can't. They take good care of their stuff, but they don't have to continue to make it better. They have to keep it at least that quality. And the Volunteer Stewardship Program has done a lot. I helped with writing that document. We had actually the Commissioner's Office, the Conservation District Director came in the other day to report on it. The sad news is that we're losing our farms, we're losing our ranches, we're losing a lot of people because of just the change in our community, which is unfortunate. But we do have a way to protect the farms, we do have a way that still continues to protect the river and the water without having the setbacks.
While I'm not wholly familiar with what the regs on the setbacks are, I can appreciate Lorna's information. And I think that to blanket it is, I don't think is the right approach to it. And while it would seem to add workload somewhere, I think that it needs to be as far as building near setbacks or what the setback is. I think that it is sticky, but it needs to be a case-by-case thing. Studied, as was previously said, study that topography and take it case by case. And then as far as building in the wetland, I tend to agree that it's ill-advised.
I don't have a lot of Eastern Washington experience with setbacks and building in wetlands. I do on the western side of the state, where I used to work in real estate with home builders, etc. And yeah, building in wetlands, you just don't do it. You don't have solid ground, you do have flooding. And furthermore, wetlands are actually, they're a necessary part of the ecosystem. You get a lot of toxins taken out of the soil. It slows down the water. It improves drainage further down. It seems counterintuitive to think that a wetland, it improves flood control. As far as setbacks, one size fits all on a state approach doesn't really work. It does need to be more region by region. What are the water resources? As has been said, what is the topography? What are we trying to accomplish? Voluntary stewardship program through the Conservation District has been very informational. If anybody doesn't know about setbacks and wetlands, I highly encourage you to contact Dave Hedrick at the Conservation District and learn more. Can't do one size fits all.
All right. Could you pass that to Lorna, please?
Oh, my turn. Your turn, Lorna. Okay, top of the head.
All right. What are the county commissioners doing to promote motorized recreation and the economic opportunities it brings to our county?
Where'd Stan go? Thanks to Stan and his bulwark, we've got opportunities for the motorized recreation, which not only is off-road vehicles, it's also snowmobiling and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, I don't know what they're currently doing. John is on that board. It's a better question for her, but I definitely support it, and I have always supported it.
So for a while now, we've had variable speed limits in the county, which if you come across motorized WATVs, which are licensed and insured and everything else, it's a state license that's on it, and it has to be given by somebody that's 16. It's not a kid out on an ATV. That has been in a lot of the county roads for a while. The commissioners have the authority to take the county roads and make it a variable speed limit. They have the authority to change it to a 35-mile-an-hour with the variable speed limit sign if the ATVs or WATVs are present. One of the other things that we found is that the governor signed into law an opportunity to have connectors. So we can go, say, from Beaver Trap to the gun range and make a connection on the state highway so that the ATVs can go from Republic to the campground, to the gun range, to the races, to whatever. The state connectors is the next thing that we're working on, is so that we've got connectors so we can go all over the county, and it's just a short piece of the state highway that can be reduced to 35 miles an hour if ATVs are present.
Most of it's already been said and is very accurate, but the committee that handles it has identified a whole lot of sort of mismatches where those connectors are necessary. So the process that's going on right now that we're all cooperating on is identifying those connectors. And in my instance in particular, there's a chunk of road down in Inchelium that's sort of a piece of it is run by the BIA, or managed rather by the BIA. A piece of it is managed by the county. A piece of it is nobody manages it, and so really identifying those, and then once you figure out who's the custodian or who manages it, then you go organize that, and as was said, putting variable speed limits up to make those connectors.
If I understood the question correctly, what the BOCC is currently doing, I think it's just looking at the different connection sites, and the most recent thing was amending speed limits on a couple of different places, Kettle River Road, Boulder Creek Road, to have the variable 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. It would be nice, from my particular point of view, if the concept of what a WATV was more broadly known, especially during tourism season. We have people who come, they have no darn clue. They're just out there doing 36 miles an hour. Nobody else around them. So a little education would be great. I would like to see that happen.
I agree about the education, because I just recently learned what WATV is. We old ATVs. But yeah, I understand that there's a lot of issues with the connectors, and that is important to focus on.
All right. We're just going to come right back to Teresa. I just made that decision. Okay. This is a two-part.
It's a two-part question. One, the first part being a yes or no-ish. And second, you can provide more information. So, first part, and this is two different questions, I'm combining them for the sake of time. Would you support and work for improving the Golden Tiger pathway from the end of the pavement to the Heron Creek parking lot? That's the yes or no section-ish. The second being, and what will you do to support the Ferry County Rail Trail?
Okay then. Would I support, thank you. Would I support improving the Golden Tiger pathway? I would want to know the question writer's definition of improvement, because are we talking more pavement? Are we talking better signage? What do we mean? Because there's a whole lot of variables that could mean. If we're talking about more access, better usability, more friendlier to the current category of users for the Golden Tiger Pathway, then absolutely yes. I think there's ample grant money that could be found for that. I think that is a good pursuit of tourism dollars that could bring people into the county, drop their money here, they go home, perfect. And what would I do to support the Ferry County Rail Trail? Same thing. I think it needs improvements. I think Phase 5 needs to go forward. I think that the washed out sections between Someday Road and Empire Creek Road need to be fixed. I don't know if that's a Department of Ecology or who's got to get their, ring kissed to get that to happen. I do see a lot of tourism dollars and folks that come in for the non-motorized portion of the rail trail, and I would like to see that encouraged.
Yes, please pass the questions down. That's fine.
Again, I agree with Teresa about what the person's idea of improving the Golden Tiger Pathway is. I've ridden my bike on that a couple of times, and it's rough in some places and not so much in other places, so I don't know if it's a pavement issue or a signage issue or what, but I would support some improvements to it. And as far as the Ferry County Rail Trail, I do believe that it needs some of those places fixed. I've talked about wanting to ride my bike from out in Curlew to my job in Republic, and that's just not possible right now unless I want to ride on the highway and risk my life, which I don't want to do. So yes, I would support the improvements to the Ferry County Rail Trail as well.
Well, I'd have to say if there's questions about improvements to the Tiger Trail, yes, definitely. Someone wouldn't write this question unless there wasn't a problem. And as far as the rail trail, there's still improvements to be made, and I'm all for it. And one of my concerns, which was brought to my attention, is the use of the motorized bicycles on the trail. And some of the residents are not liking that. Plus also, there's a lot of theft in the houses along the trail. And this goes back to bringing in more deputies, because even though the sheriff can answer those calls, he needs more deputies to be able to enforce things. So, that's that.
Okay, so in regards to the Golden Tiger Pathway, Legislator Maycumber got a capital budget grant in order to finish from Heron Creek to the Golden Tiger. That's been in the works. There's already a plan that's been submitted. It's already been worked on. RCO, the Recreation and Conservation Office, is already working on that with this Recreation Resource Committee to put this together to finish it from the end of the Golden Tiger out to Heron Creek. The plan's there. It's a done deal. It's not a done deal, but it's a being done deal. And the money is there for that. As far as the rail trail goes, the places that need to be fixed, because yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be fixed on it, but that falls to the county. So I don't know where that money is going to come from to make the rail trail fixed. I need a lot more clarification on who wants what and where they want it, because the money that's already been spent has been spent, and there needs to be a lot of things done to it before we can move forward.
I heard somebody once called the rail trail the Gaza Strip of Ferry County. Truly, and there's it's such a resource. It's such a benefit to have there. But then you have a confluence of so many different approaches as to how to best use it, how does this person want to use it, how does that person want to use it, and consequently there's that dispute, for lack of a better word, or disagreement tends to really, you know, put dirt in the cogs of getting things done on the rail trail. So what the commissioners are doing to improve the rail trail is we are slogging through that, and we are addressing each contested piece or each contested use, I guess, one at a time. And as far as the Golden Tiger pathway from the end of the pavement to Heron Creek parking lot, would you support and work for improving it? Yes, I would support improving that, with going through and figuring out also where are the hitches in that like something else that we were talking about earlier isn't necessarily a blanket like yes, go do it. Yes, I am in favor of having it as useful as possible. Thank you.
Zach, why don't you hold on to the mic, and once again, we have another rail trail question. Not that it's a big issue around here. Do you support keeping the 60% voter-approved portion of the Ferry County Rail Trail non-motorized?
Told you. Yes, but yes, and I think that there is a happy medium, and if the piece of it that I'm thinking that is being referred to here is what I'm thinking of, there's a lot of agriculture in that same vicinity, and to my understanding, I'm not deeply familiar with that piece of it, but to my understanding, there is call for some limited permitting for very limited motorized use, i.e. going across it for agricultural purposes. I would not support turning that into a full-blown ride your four-wheeler on it, but I think that there are some cases, and again, if this is the part of it that I'm thinking that it is, I think there is case for being able to issue limited permits for crossing or extremely limited use.
So the 60% vote goes back a ways. Most of us know that. It was simply an advisory vote in the county. I think if we looked at it today, rather than support this, and I'm not condoning this because that's what happened then, but now I think if we asked people, and I also think that if we took another vote to see what the people are asking, it should be brief, it should be confined to the people that it actually affects. The people that, not everybody that lived on the rail trail or had the rail trail in their backyard voted for this. Everybody that didn't have it voted for this. But the people that it affects didn't have a bigger voice, if you will. If we wanted to redo it today, I think it should be confined. It's just like District 1 commissioners, or District 1's going to vote for District 3 commissioners, District 3 is going to vote for. When it comes to the county, then the whole county votes. This is now, at this point where the trail is being worked on, is pretty much a District 1 issue.
But when this vote was taken, it mostly was the people around the lake that voted for this. And a lot of people didn't even get asked to vote, okay? Anyways, so there was question on this. I agree with her that if the vote was taken, considering all of the implications that have already come over the years, we might get a different vote. But this is what brings up the whole idea of the motorized bicycles on the trails around the lake, okay? And as far as motorizing, it's also disabled. DA, whatever. ADA, thank you. Anyways, because it's federal property. We don't own it. We're caretakers of it, okay? So there are motorized availabilities around the lake. The north part, up around Malo and whatnot, That's all motorized for farm use, and that was put in by Brad Miller, okay? In his day, because they even run the cows down it still. So it was used prior to going motorized or non-motorized for farm use. Anyways, personally, having the rail trail across from my place, I don't want to hear motors over there at all. So,
Thank you.
it's a mixed bag.
I would just say, no, I own an electric bike.
Do you support keeping the 60% voter-approved portion of the Ferry County Rail Trail non-motorized? Yes.
So I have several questions for individuals, and I'm just going to ask one of each because I'm trying to get us out of here before tomorrow. So, Teresa, we'll start with you. Last year, the county adopted an ordinance that restricts the use of agricultural lands of long-term significance. This ordinance greatly reduced the value of my property. Candidates Johnson and Exner voted as members of the Planning Commission to recommend that the Ferry County Commissioners approve the ordinance.
Wrong. I voted against.
I'll just read the question. My question to you is, would you have voted in favor, as apparently candidates Johnson and Exner did? I'm going to have to ask you guys, how did you vote on that?
She voted for it, I voted against it.
Thank you. Would you have voted in favor to allow the government to take my property rights without just compensation?
No, I would not have voted that way. I also now have a parcel that is of agricultural significance. Jojo.
Okay. This one's for Lisa. For candidate Blakeney, please explain why you listed prefers independent party on your paperwork to run for county commissioner while you're also running as Republican Party precinct committee officer.
I wasn't aware that I was running for Republic precinct officer until today.
Okay. Jonna, please tell us your plan to retain an adequate number of law enforcement officers in Ferry County.
Well, I guess we could win the lottery. And no pun intended, we don't have the money to have the law enforcement officers we need. We don't have the money to have the public works people that we need because everybody around us poaches them. We have, a set amount of money that we can spend on our employees, which is probably one of the lowest in the state. And when the sheriff actually sends a deputy and spends a lot of money to be trained, they had actually been poached before they got done with training. We cannot hold the people that we train liable, if you will, for want of a better term, to that they have to come back to work for the county. They can take another job. They can step outside the deputy training and go to work in Okanagan. We keep people on at the public works. We keep them on long enough to give them a CDL so they can drive a snowplow truck. And you know what? They can take that CDL and go anywhere with that and make a whole lot more money. So I'm not sure how we can fund more than that. It's not that for lack of trying. We've done everything we can to get police that were retiring to come in to work in the area. The same thing with construction people and for the public works. It's just we don't have the money to hold the people on them because they want money. They want money to retire on, and we can't pay the wages that other people can.
This one's for Lorna. You have professed to being a sovereign citizen. The movement's doctrine forbids registering to vote because it is a contract in disguise by the corporation of the United States of America. As you know, to run for the office, one needs to be a registered voter and file documentation in Ferry County, which is also incorporated. Explain your decision to register to vote and file for an office within
what your movement considers to be an illegal government.
I'd like to know what movement I belong to. Anyways. Yes, I filed paperwork as a sovereign citizen, and to hold a bank account, I signed my name, Lorna R. Johnson, comma, agent, so that I can deal with the corporation end of it. I also have Social Security, and I have voter. I can go between the two, and any one of you in this room can do exactly the same thing because you were born a human being. When you're in the corporation, you're a straw man. That's capital letters in your name, okay? It's not hard to do. You can all be sovereign. Any other questions about that?
All right, we're going to go just one more question. We're going to go through everyone. The question was, what are your 3 priorities? But that's going to take a while. So I would like each of you to name what you think is the most important issue facing us in Ferry County. One item, the most important issue facing us in Ferry County.
Infrastructure.
We'll go back to being able to afford the people that we would like to have to live here and to work here. The funding that we need to hold the employees and to move forward with the county.
Out of my 3. I think we'll take it back to the sovereignty and people's property rights.
Let's see. I believe that we need to support small business and add some more small businesses to our little community.
Law enforcement, recruitment, and retention. Otherwise, I'd say we go back to shoot, shovel, and shut up.
Well, on that high note.
I just have one more little thing to add, and that is the way primaries work is that the top 2 individuals for a position move forward. We've got a little number issue here, so I just wanted to let you know, correct me if I'm wrong, these 4 women are running for position number 1. Zach and his opponent, who is unable to be here tonight, are running for position 3. Did I get that right? Okay.
So there will not be a primary for Zach.
Zach
Yes,
really doesn't get a primary. Y'all do. Have fun. That's it. We did it. We made it. Yay us. John, you have something to add? You're standing between people and donuts.
Yes, just one thing to add. Thank you very much. BPW, Middle Green, July 11th, the North End Commissioners and the state representatives are all invited, as well as our 2 local federal, Jacqueline and Brian.
So Melo Grange, July 1, July 11th, what time? 6 to 9. Candidates for county commissioner, state representative, and your local congressional candidates. All righty. Anna?
So if I may, on July 9th.
Hey!
Okay, so John just said Melo Grange is having candidates forum on July 11th. And it's going to be the commissioners and it's going to be state representatives. On July 9th, there's going to be one at the Kettle River Grange in Bosco for the commissioners. And that will be from 6 to 8.
Thank you all for attending. Thank you so much.
Thank you.